Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
And we know that our microphones are working good and strong.
Talk about hot.
It really embraced this old baritone voice. Happy Thursday to you. And I'm calling our meeting to order. Tonight we're here for the zoning public hearing. And we're just a little bit after the 6 p.m. hour. And we're 903 Main Street in the heart of Old Town Conyers. And we're calling our meeting to order at this time. I do want to start with the approval of the agenda.
So, Mr. Chairman, before the board considers voting on the approval of the agenda, I have some changes this evening.
Okay.
So the applicants for item C for Lake Rockaway Road and for item D for Salem Road have requested to continue and to defer respectively. So these two items will not be heard tonight. So in your motion, if you could approve the agenda to remove items C and D.
Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I move that we amend the agenda to remove items C and D.
I second the motion.
It has been properly motioned and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So we'll take those off. That'll cut down on our time tonight. It sure will. All right. So, Executive Director Rutledge, are we in order to move forward?
You are ready to move to item 3.
All right. So now, Commissioners, will have the approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from October 27th, 2022.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any questions?
No questions.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Our next item will be item number 4. We'll hear from our Public Relations Department, I believe, with the rules, procedures for the public hearing.
Each speaker must sign their name to the appropriate zoning case sheet and fill out a public comment card to register their intent to speak prior to the start of this meeting. Each item of business shall be handled in the order that it appears on the agenda, unless upon motion of the board, the order is changed. A member of the county planning staff will present each item to the board and will provide recommendations made by both the planning staff and the Conyers-Rockdale Planning Commission for each item of business. The zoning applicant or the agent will have 10 minutes in which to make his or her presentation. Any portion of their 10 minutes may be reserved for rebuttal following the opposition to the application. After the applicant's presentation, all registered speakers who wish to speak in favor of the application will then be heard. They will also be limited to a total of 10 minutes. Once the applicant has made his or her presentation and the speakers in favor of the application have been heard, the secretary will then call upon the registered speakers in opposition to the application. The opposition shall likewise be limited to a total of 10 minutes. Once the public hearing portion is closed, no other speakers will be heard. As a reminder, speakers are to address the board and not the applicant or the audience and are expected to conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. The use of abusive or profane language shall not be allowed. No debate or argument between speakers shall be permitted. After all public comments have been heard, the board may elect to hold general discussion. However, no decisions will be rendered at this hearing. Decisions will be made at the next regularly scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting. Appeals shall be filed with the clerk of Rockdale County Superior Court within 30 days after the final decision by the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. All right. So what I do want to reiterate just for a second, this is a public hearing, and before we get going here, I want to just reiterate that the board and I will not be making a decision tonight. We won't be voting tonight. In fact, Executive Director Rutledge, would you please tell the audience when that vote will take place so they'll know?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that will be on Tuesday, March 14th at 10 a.m.
Tuesday, March 14th at 10 a.m. That's the normal procedure. Tonight is a hearing. And again, I want to, before we move forward, I want to say thank you to every single one of the citizens that I heard from. And boy, did I hear from you. Thank you. I tried my best, and I may not have responded to every one of you, but I tried my darndest to respond to everybody that texts me. And I start receiving text messages this morning about 6:30, and they are still, as I was walking into the building, they were still coming. But we do appreciate your feedback, and on March the 14th, you will hear the decision from this board. So we're going to hear everybody. We're going to hear from everybody that wants to talk. I think just about everybody's saying the same thing. So unless y'all want to stay here way past supper, that's up to you. But we got to hear from both sides on all these matters. So I want to just take a moment to just bring clarity to that. She read the rules and the procedures, but I wanted to make sure everybody understood that we're going to hear from all. So having said all of that, it is time, commissioners, to move forward. And there is no unfinished business at this time. We'll move straight on into number 6, which is special presentation, the comprehensive plan kickoff by the ARC, Atlanta Regional Commission.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have Mr. Andrew Smith of the ARC for his presentation tonight.
Well, while Christopher's pulling that up, thank you so much for having me here tonight. Board of Commission members, Director Rutledge, Mr. Wheeler, the rest of the staff, new and old, as well as the community members here of Rockdale County. My name is Andrew Smith. I am a planning coordinator with the Atlanta Regional Commission, ARC, and I know that many of you are very familiar and have been engaged with our work in the past. We are an 11-county multi-jurisdictional planning agency. We look at things like future growth at a regional level, kind of big picture in terms of natural resources, water resource management, services for older adults, workforce development, a whole range of things. I am going to be talking about just one fairly narrow item of business tonight, which is a service that we provide to assist local governments with updating their long-range comprehensive plans. So, Christopher, would you like to advance? Again, so we are just now embarking on a process where we're going to be assisting Rockdale County with updating its comprehensive plan. We actually assisted the county 5 years ago in 2018 to help develop the current comprehensive plan that's on the books. This slide just gets at, why do we plan? Growth without a plan can become unmanageable. Change without a plan can become difficult. And so you want to anticipate change, prepare for the future, and do all the things that are on this slide here in terms of building on your assets, trying to minimize challenges and weaknesses, create community, provide, of course, for the public health, safety, and welfare. There's a lot of elements of a comprehensive plan that relate to things like zoning, which is why many of the folks are here tonight from the community. And of course, one of the key tenets of zoning is providing for the public health, safety, and welfare. And it's also to accommodate present needs. There are often things that emerge that are fairly near term that you can still handle to the best of your ability with good planning. So we are, just like I said, embarking on a process to assist your staff, almost act as an extension of staff. It is a free service, and we offer this to local governments year to year. Christopher? So just a little bit of background. Again, I know there's lots of pressing zoning matters tonight, so I'm going to try to be brief. This is only 5 or 6 slides. Our primary role up until about 2012 was always being a conduit between local governments and the state Department of Community Affairs in terms of coordinating regional and state reviews of local plan updates. Plan updates at that time were more complicated, they were more time intensive, usually more expensive for smaller communities or communities with fewer resources. The trade-off was that they were due every 10 years. There was a big shift in the statewide planning rules in 2011, 2012. And part of that created the ability for local governments to now request from their regional commission direct assistance in helping develop their plan updates. So that was a big change for us, and this is a statewide thing with all of the regional commissions throughout the state. We are just one of them. One of the key differences now is that updates are due every 5 years. So the plan was last updated in 2018, and that's why we're here in 2023 at the request of county staff. There's a lot of more emphasis on flexibility and usability. It's sort of a simplified menu of plan elements now that are required under the state rules. So we're operating in that environment now, and essentially this is an opportunity to look again at your current plan from 2018, see what issues and opportunities really still resonate, what things maybe are not a priority anymore, hear from the community, hear from a stakeholder or steering committee, hear from elected officials, talk with the staff, and use all of these things, these inputs to distill into a coherent, updated plan for your future. Next slide. Just a little bit of background on the required elements. The state planning rules do require kind of a core group of elements. Up there at the top, that's a vision statement and a set of community goals. That's what you're trying to achieve. Needs and opportunities, those are kind of, we frame those or view those typically as challenges or problems, and then opportunities would be assets or strengths that you want to build on. So we use that as a lens when we are trying to gather input and gather information for the plan update process. That feeds into goals very well because that can sort of tell you what you might need to work on, and that can help modify your goals during these 5-year periods. The community work program is the very kind of finite more detailed list of projects, programs, initiatives, studies, efforts, anything that'll help you get toward achieving those goals, and that's just set up for the next 5 years, really the projects and programs you want to work on. The broadband element is a relatively new component. That's a state requirement. It seems a little bit odd in comprehensive plans, but it is a big economic development and education push at the state level. So it's not a scientific deep dive or anything, but it's looking at FCC, Federal Communications Commission data, as well as Georgia Broadband Office data, kind of pulling that in to find, understand, okay, where do we have any gaps in high-speed internet access? Where are they? Why might that be? And what could we do to address those? These other elements are really just required for certain kinds of communities. The ones that I'll just highlight here are land use. If you have a zoning code, you have to have a land use element, and that's what sort of guides your rational basis for land use planning for the future, and that's what you can make decisions like zoning decisions upon. Transportation, since Rockdale County is part of the ARC transportation planning footprint, that is a federal designation, you have to have a transportation element, so you have to talk about, and pull in information from the regional perspective, GDOT perspective, local streets perspective. Housing's not technically required for Rockdale County because of its population size. That's really for HUD entitlement communities, which require 200,000 or more in population, but it's a topic that every community wants to talk about, so the input that we get on that topic, we will fit in where it makes sense. Same thing with economic development. The rules tie it to the Georgia Jobs Tax Tier 1 credit status, and Rockdale County is not one of those counties, which in a certain sense is a good thing, but every community that we work with wants to talk about economic development, and it's a huge component of comprehensive planning, so that'll be in there as well. The capital improvements element is just for communities that collect impact fees, which Rockdale County does, and so that is an opportunity to, just like every year, the impact fee element has to be updated with a financial report and some other things like that, so that'll be rolled into this update as well. Next slide. Just kind of the near-term schedule, we've already signed and executed an MOA, which is really just a scope that lays out roles and responsibilities of what we'll do and what county staff will do. We've held kind of some initial conversations with local staff, talk about, their take on the existing plan, emerging issues in the last 5 years, talk about this upcoming planning process and public engagement. We've been working on some upfront data work there just in terms of updating demographics, population, housing data, transportation data, labor and employment data, that sort of thing. We're starting to take a look at the plan document. We lean on the county planning staff to assemble the steering committee. And so we are working through that as well. We're taking a look, kind of following the county staff's lead on reviewing the existing community work program from the last 5 years, kind of seeing what was completed, what's still ongoing, that sort of thing. And we are in the process of kind of setting up the schedule for the rest of the planning process, which will include steering committee meetings once that committee is formed, as well as a public open house where they'll have a lot of interactive engagement with boards and the ability to kind of come and go at your own independent schedule and really be able to provide input in written form, with sticky dots, with visual preference surveying and things like that. And we're also developing and publishing an online survey that is I'll talk about at the very end next to the last slide. So that's a really robust way to get input that we can have out there for a long period of time and use that as just one, another set of information to pull into the plan. Next slide. Tentative schedule, just looking more long-term. The first public hearing, that's a required aspect of the rules. That's why we're here tonight, is just really to announce that the planning process is getting started. So you can check that off. We'll have a couple of steering committee meetings over the course of the spring, targeting probably April, maybe May, when the weather's nice. Maybe we can tie it to, a community event or something like that. In terms of the public open house, that'll kind of be in the middle. Over the summer, we'll really work to take all those inputs, distill everything, and make updates to the plan, and then work with staff of the county to really review and refine that plan document. And then it'll go through some steps like work sessions up until probably looking at late August, early September, another public hearing, which is just to say, hey, we've conducted this plan update. Here are the highlights. Here's what we learned. Here's the key areas of change, and to announce that it's going to be transmitted to the state for review. And then it'll have a period in the early fall where the state Department of Community Affairs will review the plan document, just to basically make sure it's in compliance with their requirements. And then it'll come back to the county for local adoption for that process. Next slide. So we do already have, this is, I'm pinch hitting in a sense. One of my coworkers sadly left ARC last month, so we are adjusting to that. Although I manage kind of all of our project managers for all of the comp plans we're working on at any given year, and so that's why I'm here tonight. So we have kind of worked to adjust to that change, but she set up a very good foundation for the online survey, and I've refined it a little bit and have worked with staff to kind of again refine that. That actually is live and can accept responses even right now. So you could go to that site right there. It's a service called Public Input. They're based in North Carolina, and they work a lot with public entities, state departments of transportation, counties, cities, that sort of thing. There'll be a lot more chances to get that URL. There's a postcard that the staff is going to be printing that's got the URL as well as a QR code, so folks can just use their smartphone or a mobile device to be able to just snap the picture and go to the website. It's very mobile device friendly. So it's a pretty comprehensive survey that looks at a lot of different questions and topics. And it's got a schedule. It's really sort of a project website or portal that's got a lot more information on it, just besides a survey. And it'll be updated over the course of the plan with information. So I just wanted to put that out there, that folks can go to that URL and take the survey. We would encourage everybody in the room to do that at your earliest convenience. keep checking the website, check the county's social media accounts, and we're going to be pushing that link and that QR code a whole lot, and hope to be engaged with members of the county throughout the process. Last thing I want to say is that this is really the plan that's targeted for unincorporated Rockdale County. Coincidentally, we are also, I'm not working on it directly, but we are also working with the city of Conyers on their comprehensive plan update, which is due, y'all are due in the same year, which makes sense. And so I think each of these processes will help to kind of inform each other a little bit. And so we're happy that we're able to do that. But again, I'd be happy to take any questions, and I know this is a hearing, so I think there's opportunity for public comment on this item. But I'm just very happy to have been able to be with you tonight and talk a little bit about it, and hope to be engaged more and more as we go through the process. So thank you. I think that's the last slide. Thank you so much.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for the representative from ARC?
I don't have any questions, but when we get to the comments part.
Okay, Commissioner Williams? So let me just ask, how can we find social media sites? So you all, does ARC already have a place where, other than what you just shared here?
That's the main portal right now for the comp plan. Again, we're still kind of in the infancy here. So there's going to be, the county staff, Director Rutledge and Mr. Wheeler and others are going to be working to, push, the link to that site out. But it is going to be kind of a central resource, and it will be linked, on the county's website itself. So that'll be a good point of contact to be able to go to the county's actual website and then just jump to that. But this is a good place to keep everything kind of in one spot.
Outstanding.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right.
So, Deputy Director Wheeler, was there anyone signed up to speak on this item?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so, Board, did you have any other comments about
Any
this?
other comments from?
First of all, I'm so glad to see so many people here that are concerned about our community and the way that Rockdale County is moving. We had a recipient of a grant today where we received $300, and the chairman coined the phrase pivoting towards progress. And to me, this comprehensive plan is going to be the roadmap and one of the most important comprehensive plans that we're going to do. And so this is you all's opportunity to not just say no to things, but to give insight on how you want this community to grow. Because guess what? It's got to grow. Because we can love this community to death, meaning that there won't be anybody to buy your houses, there won't be children or families moving in here. So with this comprehensive plan, this is the opportunity that we can take great ideas and put them to our ordinances and things like that. This is where we start reimagining Rockdale County for the future. This comprehensive plan will be one of the most important things that we do in our terms of office, because we're in Atlanta. We are a part of the Atlanta Regional Commission. We are part of the 11 counties that is considered Metro Atlanta, and we have to understand what that means as far as being a part of the ARC. The thing that I want to do, the thing that I want to impress upon everybody is, if we don't have a vision that attracts people and makes people want to be here, then we're going to be the community where people can be here. And that's a different mentality, and I don't want to be that community. So this is where your input is most valuable, and we need to hear what is desired. And it has to take into consideration that, the governor is saying that if we don't figure it out, then he's going to figure it out for us. He's dropped 2 bills yesterday that pretty much say that. So not only would I like feedback on the QR codes, but we need volunteers. Right now, we have three members of the committee, and we need about 20. So this would be an opportunity for you all to give very, very valuable input on the next generation, the next couple of generations of Rockdale County in this comprehensive plan. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Williams?
I think Commissioner Washington said just about everything. The only other comment I had was that I want to make sure that we get public input from all aspects of our community so that we have a really robust representation. And however we need to do that, we need to make sure that we do.
Okay, all right. Okay, that takes care of that one.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. And at this point, we will turn it over to the planning staff and go right into new business under item 7.
Outstanding.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman, Madam Commissioners. The first case brought to you this evening is 460 Honey Creek Road, rezoning case 22-013. The applicant is D.R. Horton. They are seeking a rezoning from agricultural residential to CRS, collaborative residential, for the development of 540 single-family detached homes. Before you is an aerial photo of the subject property. Again, this property has frontage along Honey Creek Road and Good Road. Points of interest are the Honey Creek subdivision located to the southern portion of the subject property, and Bent Creek Farm located to the east of the subject property. Stanton Road is located to the east of it, as well as Squire Lane. The future land use map for the subject property is medium density. Again, the current zoning of this subject property is agricultural. The surrounding zoning around the area is agricultural and R1 residential, single-family detached residential. Further towards the intersection of Honey Creek and Highway 20, you have a mixture of office institutional and C1 commercial. The summary requested details a few points. Again, the applicant is seeking 540 detached single-family units. The overall density for this subject property would be 1.89 units per acre. Again, they fall within the permitted density requirements of the future land use category of between 1 to 2 units per acre. They are asking for smaller lot sizes of 85,750 square feet. The required square footage for this zoning that they're seeking is 10,000 square feet. The existing square footage of the surrounding properties are at least an acre or at minimum of 31,000 square feet. Some points that interest as well, again, is the applicant plans on doing a walking trail as well as using Cowan Lake as amenities for the residential development property, as well as doing tennis courts and swimming pools as well. Oh, I'm sorry, not tennis court, pickleball, and so forth. Again, it's the site plan. The applicant has indicated that there will be 3 points of access along Honey Creek Road, as well as 2 points of access along Good Road. The applicant has indicated that this would be a development over a 10-year plan. So again, it would be phased out in 4 phases. The applicant still hasn't indicated the timeline of that, but they have indicated that it will be a four-phase plan for the development. So not all 550 homes will be developed at one time, but incrementally over a 10-year period. Again, the applicant has indicated it would be something of like a pod submission. As always with all staff applications, staff has provided a technical analysis of each application. In your staff report, staff has indicated there are certain areas that they have some concerns. One is the number of homes that applicant has tended to develop over time, as well as the overall square footage of the lots and so forth. As well as RDOT, from our Department of Transportation, has indicated they have some concerns regarding the overall traffic impact that the development would have on the overall immediate sites. So therefore, staff did recommend denial of this application. The Planning Commission did recommend denial as well. However, if the board does choose to approve this application, staff that has a set of set of conditions that the staff would be benefit if you would approve with those conditions. I do ask you to hold all questions until the applicant has presented presented his presentation because those questions may have been answered during their presentation. And she is here tonight, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Tiffany Hogan on behalf of D.R. Horton, 1371 Dogwood Drive. D.R. Horton is the #1 builder in America since 2002, meaning essentially that we have closed more homes than any other builder in the nation since 2002 consistently. As staff did a great introduction of the project. Next slide, please, Chris. The project is located between Good Road to the north of the site and Honey Creek Road to the south of the site. The property address is 460 Honey Creek Road. Next slide, please. This next slide is an exhibit of the full site plan that we are seeking approval of this evening. The site is just over 285 acres, as you've heard. This site plan is preserving and conserving nearly 95 acres of open space, including the 25-acre lake, which will be enhanced and improved. So approximately 33% of the property will be conserved or preserved in some way for open space. In addition, to add to creating a buffer around the community, the buffers throughout and surrounding the property are between 30 and 70 feet, with the closest buffer actually being 31 feet, and that's just behind 4 lots. So your code requires 20-foot buffers. So in most of the areas surrounding the property, we are over 50% for that requirement. Next slide, please. Again, we are not seeking a land use amendment. The current zoning for the project is agricultural residential, or AR, and we are proposing rezoning to collaborative residential subdivision, or CRS. Next slide, please. Here you see a site data chart that provides a bit more information on the dimensions of the site. Rockdale County Code allows for 3.14 units per acre, as you've heard, for the CRS zoning district, and between 1 and 2 for the land use. With our current plan, we are looking at 1.89 units per acre only with the current site plan design. We are seeking a variance from the code for the lot size of 10,000 square foot lots, and we are requesting a variance to 8,750 square foot lots, which is a reduction of 1,250 square feet. That square footage is likely just the extended length of the lot, and many families would not likely use that. The market now dictates that it's smaller lots that folks are looking for maintenance reasons and other reasons. And we find that the reduction to 8,750 square feet is more in line with the industry standards for development now. Also, with the design at 8,750 square foot lots, it allows for the additional open space that we've described that's allowing us to preserve so much more of the property. The design does not vary from the code in any other way. Next slide, please. The development will take estimated 18 to 24 months for moving the dirt and getting the ground prepared for beginning to build. The homes will be built in 3 to 4 phases, as staff has indicated, over approximately 6 years. So we estimate that the full build out and development of the project will be anywhere between 8 to 10 years, with time for development, permit time, and possible weather delays or any other delays experienced there. All of the homes within the community would have 3 to 5 bedrooms throughout. There would be 1-story and 2-story house plans, with the square footages ranging from over 1,800 square feet, which is the minimum code requirement for CRS zoning, to nearly 3,500 square feet of heated space for the homes. All D.R. Horton homes also come equipped with a smart home package, so these would as well. We truly believe that this community will offer great housing opportunities for new residents and existing residents of Rockdale County, being that it offers product for first-time home buyers, to growing families, to those that are seeking to find a sense of community in their forever home as well. Next slide, please. Here we have an artistic rendering of what a section of the street in this community will look like. You'll have one-story and two-story product that will be mixed in together and not separated into separate pods. Our driveways are all long enough for the longest vehicle known in the United States at the time to park without overlapping the sidewalks to make it easier for folks to walk through the community. All homes will have 2-car garage spaces and 2 additional spaces in the driveway for additional parking. This community is designed with connectivity, walkability, and community in mind. One way that the design emphasizes this are with 5-foot sidewalks, as shown here, that would be on both sides of the street internally, of every street within the community, and also along the frontage of Good Road and along the frontage of Honey Creek Road as well. Next slide, please. The next 4 slides are a few renderings and photos of some of the homes that are proposed for the development. The colors may vary slightly. All homes will be a mixture of materials to include brick, cementous siding, cementous shake, and board and batten. All homes will have a landscape package with at least 2 trees and 16 shrubs. The yards will be fully sodded. Street trees will also be planted as well to add to the beauty and the tree canopy of the community. Next slide, please. We're really proud to be able to offer numerous amenities in this community and some really unique ones. With the offerings at Preserve at Honey Creek, residents will have opportunities for entertainment, gardening, and health. There will be 2 main amenity areas along with additional pocket parks throughout. The amenity area that's planned lakeside will include 2 canoe launches, 5 fishing or observation piers or walkout docks, 2 community gardens, a playground, an open lawn area, a restroom, 1.5-mile lakeside walking trail, and bicycle racks as well. Next slide, please. The second amenity area, which would be located on the Honey Creek side, would be the more traditional amenity area that people think of when they think of subdivisions. This one would include a pool, play courts, cabana area with restrooms for changing, a fire pit, walking trails, grill area, and Preserve at Honey Creek would be planned very much like the short 12-second video that we'll now show you. All of the amenity areas in Preserve at Honey Creek will be maintained by the mandatory Homeowners Association that will maintain all of the common areas and enforce the governing documents that will help this community remain beautiful for years to come. Next slide, please. D.R. Horton considers home ownership as the American dream. We don't just build quality, affordable product, we also take steps to assist buyers in achieving that dream. Since 1978, D.R. Horton has kept home ownership as its first and primary goal. D.R. Horton agents are trained to sell to owner-occupants only and not investors. Seminars are provided to educate local agents on new home construction and first-time buyers. We also offer the Main Street Stars incentive program, which I'll talk about on the next slide. And we also offer the Home Buyers Club, which is a home buyer education and credit counseling program. Next slide, please. The Main Street Stars program provides an additional helping hand to your everyday heroes that live right here in your community towards the purchase of their future home. So those military personnel, active and retired, law enforcement, firefighters, your healthcare professionals, and your educators. Next slide, please. Simply by being a part of the American dream, we want to thank them by offering an incentive towards the closing of their homes. Next slide, please. D.R. Horton is so committed to the principle of home ownership and helping buyers achieve security in their investment that we also offer a free of charge home buyer education program. Even if a buyer decides not to be a D.R. Horton home purchaser, they can still participate in this program. 2,744 Home Buyers Club clients have successfully completed the program and purchased a home from October 1st 2021 to September 30th, 2022. 26,989 purchase transactions that the Home Buyers Club has assisted since the inception of the program in 2008. In fiscal year 2022, the average credit profile increase was 52 points in approximately 3.9 months for those that participated in this program. Again, this is free of charge, and the Preserve at Honey Creek residents would have the opportunity to participate in this. Next slide, please. Is that my time?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We respectfully request that you approve the application for CRS rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hogan. Who's up next? Mr. Wheeler.
It'll be a public comment now. The first person for public comment in opposition will be Ms. Cheryl Moulton.
Good evening, Chairman Nesbitt and Madam Commissioners. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Cheryl Moulton. I have resided at 3305 Squire Lane for 29 years on the backside of Cowan Farms. Tonight, I respectfully stand before you all in opposition of this rezoning request. Last night, the Planning Commission recommended denial. Planning and Development staff report recommends denial. And RDOT recommends denial on the traffic study. We all request that you follow suit in the denial of this project. To rezone this 285 acres from AR to CRS would be a deafening bottleneck of traffic to a 3-mile area, affecting our already congested 2-lane roads, placing over 1,600 cars, affecting our already stressed infrastructure with over 5,000 daily trips of cars, with 3 entrances to Honey Creek and 2 from Good Road, as you've heard. This development alone affects the impervious surface to over 60% of more stormwater runoff, which currently rates substandard in our area. The Cowan Lake contributory is in and on the FEMA floodplain maps, and the dam that continues to Ebenezer and through Honey Creek. I believe Christopher Wheeler has placed a package to the right of you or so forth. With the 22-acre lake that holds over 8 million gallons of water, which 1 acre of water covers a football field at 1 foot deep. If the dam breaks, it is currently a high hazard risk of flooding out Squire Lane, which washed out in April of 2019 and took 3 years to get repaired and reopened this past December of 2022. It will also flood out Good Road, Ebenezer, Troop Smith. I received the PE engineering report that was done January of 2023, and that should be in your package as well to review. Honey Creek Golf Course wrote a letter in their absence of the president, Paul Renaud, suggesting some of the things that he's concerned of too. I'm sure you received that during email the other day. Yes. This is not a positive economic development, and I have to stress that. There's nothing in the surrounding area that mimics nor supports the current comprehensive plan nor the future land use plan. And the rezoning request is just not committed to high density. We're already seeing the effects of the 4,067 approvals that the city and the county from 2022 have already approved, and they're not even 25% out of the ground. I think we need to step back, give it a chance to catch up, and see what the 11 projects around us are going to affect us all the way up to Miller Chapel Road. This also affects our electrical grid, other infrastructures like 911 response, ambulance response times, fire response times, and Piedmont Rockdale emergency room turnaround times that we rely on in dire emergencies. We ask that you all rely on the professionalism and the expertise of your staff, their departments, and their recommendations that they have put forth to bring this valuable information to their reports. I believe that if you didn't trust them, you wouldn't have hired them. I ask that you oppose to this as well. This development will not support 540 homes from Squire Lane, Honey Creek, and Good Road. They're all two-lane roads. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank
All right. Deputy Director Wheeler, who's up next?
Mr. Martin Postmart, or Postmart, I can't read out the last part.
He's coming right up.
Thank you all for your service. Name's Mark Postma, 622 Good Road. I don't know if I have a lot to say after the lady in front of me. Except I guess the thing is there's traffic, and then a lot of four-letter adjectives for traffic in our area. Again, Honey Creek is a two-lane highway. Good Road is a very rural road. If you want to have the old country boy ride on a country road, that's the one to do it. There's lots of blind spots, lots of hills, so forth. So not a great place to stick another 1,000 cars coming in and going. I did have one thing where they were 500 houses, and last night they indicated millennials and boomers. They're young folks, they're going to want to have kids, and at a mild estimate of 800 kids or something like that, it's an entire brand new school system, or school. And already I think I've heard tell that our schools are struggling a bit, so I'm not sure that a recommendation to change the zoning. The last one was in October 2019. I attended the Planning and Zoning Board for another item. And a gentleman, I think he was a senior manager of staff at the time, explained what the global overlay was, which I found entertaining, but indicated that they did not want to do a lot of zoning changes, as they would start having all these anomalies all over the place on the global zoning map, and then what was the use of that map? So again, respectfully, if you would deny this, and if they wish to go and put 1 acre plus lots in there, that's their business, but high density housing, I think it'll be an impact that'll be negative to our area. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Casey Broughton.
Hello, good evening. My name is Kelsey Broughton. I live at 4055 Troop Smith Road in Conyers, Georgia. Our street runs adjacent to the 460 Honey Creek property. I would like to start by, of course, thanking the Planning and Development Board for the discussion last night regarding this property and for listening to the community and opposing this development. I am a Conyers native. I know it's not many of us left, but my family has been here since before Rockdale County was founded. We have observed an abundance of change. Conyers was always known for spacious, neighborly, quiet country living. Even you, Commissioner Nesbitt, stated in an interview with Atlanta Small Business, and I quote, "The days of being able to have an acre or 2 or 3 acre lot in terms of land where children and grandchildren, where pets and animals can run around and enjoy, those days are kind of few and far between throughout the metro Atlanta area. But Rockdale, we still have space and availability and affordable space based on square footage. This is what you said,
It
Commissioner.
is.
Yes, sir. So we know that as a community, that there should be forward movement, growth and development within our neighborhoods, but what we have been seeing and what this developer is trying to do now, we absolutely oppose. For example, the Dogwood development and the parks and recreational developments have been great in our community. But we have also witnessed some things that we're not pleased with in our community. For example, $6 trees, $4 generals, 6 Family Dollars, over 12 liquor stores, title loan establishment, 2 to 4 gas stations at every large intersection. These are just a few of the things that we want you all to stop allowing in our neighborhoods and calling it growth and forward movement for our communities. Within the AJC, there have been publications through the last month speaking about the deterioration of our neighborhoods, especially in those in which the demographic is shifting to the minority becoming the majority. Our neighborhood's home values are being lessened with the things that are approved by this board. The board is meant to make us better. The board is meant to make us better, create good and beneficial growth to the community, not just meet growth goals. Last night, the community listened to D.R. Horton representative, and in that meeting, we heard them say that potentially 540 units would be placed on a 285 acres of land, of which 22 to 25 acres of that is a lake. Yes, she stated that they would create some green space and walking paths, but she deflected nearly every question pertaining to how the neighborhood would be affected. You did say previously that I would be able to be heard. Is that correct?
You would be able to be heard. We're going to respect everybody's time. To manage the meeting tonight, we have a time allotment for each speaker, so that's why you're hearing the chime.
Okay, but
I'm going to take the liberty as your chairman to allow you to wrap it up.
Thank you very much.
All right.
She stated, okay, what I will say is we are also able to look at the quality, we were able to look at the quality and design of the homes as she showed tonight. The least that D.R. Horton could do is offer their top tier products in a beautiful community like ours. They should have presented their Emerald Series homes or even Gates at Pates Creek in Hampton regarding the home's appearance. She mentioned that new homes closing in our area have decreased from 1,500 to 1,000 in the last year. That is not because of deficit of homes. That is because of inflation in groceries, gas, and everything else that it takes just to live. So now you are telling me that we have to deal with disruption for 10 years of building if you all approve a development that we do not want. Yes, traffic will be ridiculous. I don't even have to talk about that. We saw how no one is mentioning Troop Smith Road in these discussions and how we will be affected by the traffic. When Highway 212 was being worked on, the traffic was rerouted to Troop Smith Road. It tore our roads up and it made us sit at the end of our driveways 4 to 5 minutes just trying to get out. Not to mention people flying up and down, and it became dangerous. Schools, she stated schools are under capacity. Educators got up last night and stated schools are at capacity and that the teachers are overworked due to shortage of educators. When it comes to the school board, it was hard to hear that they said what they had to say to one of our educators. Bottom line, the school board would never say that they are at capacity because more neighborhoods mean more people, means more children, means more funding. So I don't trust either at this point. I prefer to believe that the people who are in the classroom with the students every day are the authority on the subject matter. Infrastructure, we don't have it. I don't have to say much more about that. Again, we don't oppose, I am wrapping it up now. Again, we don't oppose development, but we do want thoughtful development that benefits the community as a whole. Keep the green spaces that they stated, but only do 1 to 2 acre lots per home. 2 acres per home. Bring the number down to 150 to 220 homes in the whole development. We don't want We don't want to become the mess that a portion of Salem Road has become. We don't want to become the mess that a portion of Irwin Bridge has become. We don't want to look like the overdeveloped areas of DeKalb County. I saw a sign in Covington that stated, "Don't Conyers Covington." We as a community are already being looked down on due to the development that has already occurred. Let us do better. We can do better. Please do not approve this development as it is written out. Please add to the list, reduce number of homes, no more than 220. Keep the barriers around the homes. Provide better quality homes with stone and at least 3-side brick or cement board craftsman style homes. Make sure that the HOA, they have an HOA that keeps the neighborhood in great shape. Make sure that we have increased patrols. We are already dealing with the most break-ins we have ever had in this county. Fix the problems that we have before we start adding more. I would like to suggest to the county to buy and develop the property and build a park with lake access for fishing and or paddle boarding, bicycle trails, tons of green space for community enjoyment. We are the voices of Rockdale County, and we are asking our elected officials to listen to us, our wants and needs, not the needs of big corporations and organizations that build in our community and leave with all of these complaints that will never be addressed. Thank you all for your time and attention.
Well, we've got a really robust crowd out here tonight. I don't know whether there's any other speaker that even should think about following behind her. Let me say this. We are taking in every single word that you all are expressing tonight, and we do, as both commissioners have expressed, that we do appreciate you being here, and we hear you very loud and clear, so thank you again. Deputy Director Wheeler, who's next up?
Since we ran out of time, that's it for public.
Well, let me just tell you about that run out of time thing.
Oh.
That's where I come in. So we're going to fix that, and we're going to afford everybody an equal and fair opportunity to have their voice heard. And if we have to modify the time for the other side, then we're going to do it. This is a very sensitive topic and a very serious concern for the community. So that's when we have to make those adjustments. So I'm willing to do what we need to do on behalf of the community as a whole. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just so we can keep the balance of time, and since we are on the record.
Absolutely.
If we could decide on an amount of time, maybe 10 minutes or 20 minutes, to extend to each side, and then we'll run the timer. And maybe, how many more speakers do we have that are registered?
6.
So maybe,
So,
Sorry, 7.
and I appreciate the direction from the executive director, and I support it. I'm going to say that let's move forward, commissioners, with allotting 20 minutes per side. I think that's more than reasonable, all things considered. When I think about what I just heard, I don't know how many people it takes to really repeat the same thing. We've heard you very clearly. We do have to allot an opportunity for the other side to have a voice as well. This is a hearing, so there won't be a vote tonight anyway, but in order for us to have a fair hearing, we have to allot. So, Commissioner, are you all okay with 20 minutes per side to do this? Very good, let's move forward.
Next person to speak would be Mr. Jesus Oliveras.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
My name is Jesus Oliveras. I'm going to give my time to the lady that just before me, okay? I cannot add to both of the speakers there, okay? All I can say is this. If this was a viable situation, the rest of the staff and the Planning Commission, this would not have been necessary, but they denied it for a lot of the reasons, and a lot of reasons that were put forth completely there. What we have here is a matchbox, and with this I'm going to end, okay? So I'll give time to somebody else. With everything that you heard, and you saw all those houses there, if you were buying a house, would you buy a house in that property?
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker is Miss Ann Shivington.
Ms. Shivington, come on up.
Hi, my name is Anna Chivington. I currently reside at 901 College Avenue in Old Town, but I grew up at 3460 Ebenezer Road, where my parents have lived for 28 years, and which sits adjacent to the proposed development. I am here representing my parents and standing in opposition of the rezoning request. In addition to the issues already mentioned, we want to make sure that the commissioners are aware of the major drainage and flooding issues that occur at Honey Creek, which is a Cowan Lake tributary, and the culvert that runs under Ebenezer Road on our property. This is an issue my father has been complaining about for the last 20 years, and the high level of development proposed by Horton Homes would only exacerbate the issue. And I do have some photos of the flooding that I'd like to share if I can come up.
If you would, just hand those to the deputy director, and he'll make certain that we get them, and we do appreciate those photos, too. Let me say that. Thank you so much.
Next speaker is Miss Tammy Schaller.
Okay.
Okay, Tammy Schaller, 1119 Oxford Drive. I just want to briefly talk about the number of units that have already been approved in Rockdale County and in the city. And all of these developments are either site being cleared or site work being done. There's only 2 sites that have construction, no occupants whatsoever. A total of 4,743 units. In the county, 3,177. In the city, 1,566. In the county, we have 1,959 townhouses approved, 1,218 single family. In the city, 302 townhouses, 500 single family, and 764 multifamily development already approved. With that, you're looking at 18,972 population growth. With the average of 2 kids, you're looking at 9,486 children added to our school system. Average 2 cars. We don't have public transportation. 9,486. That's without anything that you're hearing about tonight. And none of this has been sold, and there's no one living there yet. We're bottlenecking. We got to stop and think about it and reevaluate what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next speaker is Mr. Matthew Howard. Matthew Howard.
He's coming up.
I just want a point of clarification, Chairman. You want a total of 30 minutes for each side?
We gave a total of 20 minutes per side.
Per side, okay.
20 minutes.
Okay,
yes,
so
sir.
an additional 10 minutes, okay.
Yes, sir. Come on up, Mr. Howard.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you very much for extending the time and allowing everyone a chance to speak. It's very much appreciated. My name is Matthew Howard. I live at 506 Honey Creek Road Southeast. I've prepared a few notes that I'll read. This property lies directly behind my house, and I would like to voice my opposition to this project and any similar project. The proposed community is radically different from the surrounding existing properties. There is also already too much traffic on Honey Creek Road, and this project would add a catastrophic additional level of traffic. Finally, they say that this style of development is what millennials are looking for. I am a millennial, my wife was as well, and we would never want to live in such a structure or on such a small lot size. In fact, a good friend of mine just purchased a property that's on just under 3 acres of property. So that is kind of what we're looking for. So anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Howard.
Next speaker is Ms. LaVonda Clarington.
Good evening, Commissioners. I don't want to repeat anything that anyone said, but I just do want to just say a personal story. I moved to Conyers in 2008 from Miami, Florida. One of the things that drew me to Conyers was the space. I've currently live at 871 Tree Line Drive, and I live on 1.3 acres. I had 3 children at that time. My children have grown up here. We have enjoyed living here in Conyers. We do not want a development that have 0 lot homes. That was one of the reasons why I moved from Florida, is because it was becoming too crowded. They were building on every inch of land, having 0 lot homes. It became too crowded, and traffic is horrendous. So I implore you to please vote in opposition of this plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Last public comment card I have is Ms. Tiffany Williams.
Come on up, Ms. Williams.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you guys for allowing us the time. I am Tiffany Williams. I currently reside at 714 Lynn Milam Lane. I wanted to come and actually just reiterate the things that have always been shared with you, which really is for you guys to please deny. We have met with this builder, D.R. Horton, several times with the community. We have expressed to them our concerns, and those concerns fell on deaf ears. We're asking for you as our elected officials to stop, to tell them, listen, if you want to come to our community, respect what is already in place here, right? So if we have minimum mandates of what the building codes should be, then we ask that when you come in, respect that. Don't ask us to be Atlanta or Decatur or somewhere else where there is homes on top of homes on top of homes. People move in this area for a particular reason, and someone mentioned that earlier. I moved here as well for that exact reason, and I've enjoyed it. So we're going to hope that you guys will just make sure that we have smart growth. I am a proponent of growth, so I understand that it's going to happen. We just want to make sure that you guys are the gate holders and make sure that that growth is smart growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Good evening, Commissioners, again, and thank you for the additional time.
Ms. Hogan, right before you get into, I noticed you were taking some notes with each speaker. Are you going to reference some of those notes that you've taken?
I will, yes, sir.
Outstanding.
So, Commissioners, as Ms. Williams just mentioned, we did hold 3 voluntary community meetings because, as you are aware, your code does not require community meetings for rezoning process. So we wanted to hear the input of the community. We wanted to hear the feedback of the community. And where feasible, our team did address those things. We understand that housing and growth are very sensitive issues. This is our everyday business. So a lot of the comments that were heard during those meetings, and we do have minutes from each one of those, were opinions about a lot of things, and unfortunately not a lot of things that we could actually address. We are always open to being able to address those comments that we can actually address. And I want to do that now, as you mentioned, Chairman. So one of the things that was recently mentioned was 0 lot line properties. These are not 0 lot line properties. The properties are 70 foot wide, and in every way, other than the square footage, will comply with the CRS zoning. Also, when it comes to the square footage of the lots, there is a condition proposed by staff that if approved, then it will be 10,000 square foot lots. So that condition has already been proposed for you, Commissioners. There are side setbacks, rear setbacks, and front yard setbacks that are all a requirement of the code that will be met with this development. In addition to the 3 voluntary community meetings, we've also responded to multiple email inquiries. We've participated in pre-app and development team meetings with your staff. We've met with staff department heads as well as traded lots of email correspondence with them over the last 18 months, not just recently. We began working with your sewer department even before we filed an application for this project. Because we were so much on the front end of that, we had the opportunity to actually be included in those models that your engineers are preparing for the new pump stations that are coming online in Rockdale County. In addition to that, we heard the concerns about the infrastructure, and one of the things that we have additionally done is discussed with your water and sewer departments the infrastructure that is needed to be put into place, and D.R. Horton, at no expense to the county, is putting all of that infrastructure in place and will donate that back to the county once development of the site is completed, and that infrastructure would potentially also be able to help and serve residences that are already existing in the area. We are continuing to work with the sewer department and with RDOT in particular to get additional information because we have heard traffic is a major concern. And I have with me here this evening our traffic engineer from KCI. With the DRI, and he'll explain the process to you a bit more, a third party has to be hired by the applicant in order to complete a traffic impact study, which you all have a copy of. Once that traffic impact study is completed, ARC, Mr. Andrew Smith, who was here earlier this evening, they then complete a review of that as well as the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority. They then all make recommendations for the improvements that are needed around the project. And we have taken those recommendations into consideration, and again, at no cost to the county and not requesting any state or federal funds, D.R. Horton is prepared to make all of those improvements that have been recommended by the traffic impact study as well as the Greta notice of decision. We heard a lot about your schools and your staff. Someone made the comment, if you hired the staff, then you should trust them. That is absolutely correct. I agree with that. And your staff has prepared technical review reports that are included in your packet. And you see the numbers there for the schools that will service this area and the fact that they are, at this time, underutilized schools. In addition to that, a benefit of new housing in your area would allow an opportunity for housing product that's affordable for teachers that would come to your community to recruit and retain that talent that's needed in your school district. At this time, I would like to bring up Mr. Andrew Antweiler, who is with KCI Technologies. He is a traffic engineer and will speak more directly to the traffic and infrastructure that we've heard about.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners.
Good evening.
Thank you, Tiffany, for the introduction. I'm with KCI Technologies, and I'm a traffic engineer who assisted D.R. Horton with preparing the DRI traffic study. As she indicated, when a development is of a certain size, then ARC and Greta require a review. They want to make sure that a traffic impact study is conducted according to their guidelines and that is coordinated with not only the jurisdiction that the project is in, which is in this case Henry County, but also coordinated with the City of Conyers, with Georgia DOT, and other agencies to get input on the development. So one of those components in a DRI is performing a traffic impact study. We performed this, the agencies reviewed this in the last year, 2022, and completed their review. We actually performed a traffic impact study for 620 lots. Now that the applicant has reduced that number, the impacts on the roads will be less than in that report. So with 540 homes proposed, that would reduce the daily number of trips that the development would create to 4,906. As part of the DRI traffic study, all of these streets adjacent to this site were studied. That includes Honey Creek, Good Road, Ebenezer, Troop Smith, Stanton Road, even State Route 20 going north towards I-20, as well as State Route 138. And the agencies that I previously mentioned, including Georgia DOT, They all found at the end of reviewing the traffic impact study that these streets can handle the traffic generated by this development. And if there are any questions, happy to answer those.
Did you say can or can't?
Can, ma'am. They, from a capacity standpoint, they can handle the volume
They
from the
can,
development.
okay.
Yes, so the traffic impact study looks at the roads as well as the intersections and how they will function at the full build-out of the development.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And since I have a couple of minutes remaining, Chairman, I would like to take advantage of those as well.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. So a couple of other things that we've heard this evening and that we've heard through the last 18 months in reviewing this project are concerns about the stormwater runoff. I think I'm losing my mic. Concerns about the stormwater runoff and flooding and things such as that. With this development, I just want to reiterate that all local, state, and federal guidelines would be followed as necessary for the development. We have entire teams that would be examining these things. Even prior to this, we have already had engineering teams out taking a look at the dams to see what would be necessary for that. Some of the runoff issues that folks are experiencing are potentially because the property has not been touched in so long and nothing has been done. Some of that cleanup would occur with the development of this site. As far as concerns that we heard during community meetings, we even addressed an issue regarding an endangered species of a bird that perhaps is on the property. So our development teams and our environmental teams have been made aware of that from the comment during that community meeting, and a special report will be completed prior to any development occurring on the property to ensure that any endangered species that's known by law is protected and kept well and safe. There was a comment about this not being a positive economic development. With bringing rooftops to your area, there was a concern from your residents about the Dollar Generals, the gas stations, those sorts of things. Rooftops bring retailers that want higher numbers of rooftops in the area and certain demographics in the area. With that, you would have an opportunity for more retail opportunities other than those dollar stores and those gas stations. Again, we would respectfully request approval of the CRS rezoning. And in addition to that, we are requesting that an additional condition be added, which states that we would have the opportunity to work out a written agreement with your Department of Transportation, since we have not gotten secured numbers or details of the improvements specifically from RDOT that are needed. So up until 6 months after the approval of this zoning, we would have an opportunity to have a written agreement with that department for any other improvements that they deem necessary for the area impacted by this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, does either of you have any questions for Ms. Hogan? Any additional questions for Ms. Hogan?
I have a couple. My first question is tract housing. How is this subdivision, if different than it being considered tract housing with so many units in it?
Sure. So currently there are about 8 house plans that are planned for this development. With those plans, not only are they different floor plans, obviously, for each one of those 8, as I mentioned, a mixture of 1-story and 2-story houses, but the elevations would also be different for the houses so that there is no house that's facing each other or next door to each other that are identical, because you do want to give the community some personality. Also, with the landscaping packages, there are some things that we can do to add variety. And with the site design itself, when you're looking at the site design, it's not your traditional layout, because we did get to preserve so much of that open space and utilize that. So that's some of the ways that it would differ.
You're requesting that the square footage be about 8,700 square feet. What's the amount of units that would be required if we have it per code at the 10,000 square feet?
So we have had our engineers take a look at that, and the estimate is that at 10,000 square foot lots, still 70 feet wide, it would approximately yield 475 units for the total development, keeping in mind that there's no vehicular connection between the Good Road side and the Honey Creek side. So it would reduce the number of units on both sides of the project.
So you go from 540 to 475?
Correct, and that is an estimate.
I heard that there's a cabana, a proposed cabana.
Correct.
Would you all be amenable to a clubhouse, a full-blown clubhouse on the property?
If it is the commissioner's desire for a full clubhouse, that could definitely be an adjustment to the site. One of the reasons that we steer away from clubhouses with more recent developments is because it becomes a great expense to the HOA once the developer is no longer in the community. We've seen several communities where the clubhouses need new carpet, new roofs, and it becomes an additional assessment on top of their already annual assessments, because as we all know, we would hope and desire that everyone would pay their HOA assessments, but there's typically pretty large delinquencies, and so once the clubhouse needs repairs, because it's just like your house, you know, the money has to come from somewhere.
I'm always very interested when somebody mentions floodplain. How is this unit, is it in the floodplain, or how far away from the floodplain, or things like that?
Sure. So our engineers have taken care not to put any of the homes into a floodplain and to observe all of the local, state, and federal buffer requirements for your floodplains as well. So I don't know those exact numbers, Commissioner, but I could definitely get them to you. And if you take a look at the site plan, you will see where some of the homes are shifted, and that's why in some of the areas you have the greater buffers than in other areas, so that we remain out of that floodplain area.
Now, have the engineers, I'm very concerned about any kind of exasperated stormwater issues. That concerns me greatly. So what are you all going to do to assure
Absolutely.
these residents that a colossal development like this will not further exasperate what they're already experiencing?
Sure. So we've already done a couple of things along those lines. First and foremost, any developer has a requirement by law not to make any existing issue worse with the development that goes in. So that is a federal law that we have to abide by. We have had conversations with your stormwater department after receiving some of the photos and getting information about Squire Lane and Stanton Road to find out what the county had planned for those situations that obviously were already pre-existing. It is our understanding that those situations have been corrected by some additional drainage being added in those areas, and that there are some additional improvements that are planned for that area as well. Just as we stated with the Department of Transportation and continuing to work with sewer, we will continue to work with stormwater and every other department in the county, because we want this development to be just as successful as you guys do. The last thing that we would want is for our new residents not to be able to get to their homes because of a flooding issue with stormwater.
So, did I hear you correctly say that with the transportation issues, D.R. Horton is willing to fund everything that is needed to get, and so right now, well, y'all know, I'm not putting anything on a F road. That's, I think people know me well enough to know that that's not. So, in order to get it to B, you all are willing to fund Good Road or the improvements?
So that's why we need the additional conversation with your Department of Transportation. We have initiated that conversation, but we have not received the details from them as for what is needed. We rely on the experts in that area. That's why we hire a traffic engineer, and that's why we question your Department of Transportation as to exactly what's needed. What I can say at this time is that the recommendations that are a part of the traffic impact study and the Greta Notice of Decision, yes, those recommendations and improvements will be fully funded by D.R. Horton. The conversation needs to continue with your Department of Transportation as to exactly what's needed and what that contribution amount is that they're seeking in order for us to agree to that.
So are you all willing to roll out this project in a manner, like if we restrict the amount of permits to so many a year until we can get the traffic under control and it's inspected to know that the traffic is under control? Is that within the realm of what D.R. Horton is willing to concede to?
So it is absolutely your right to do that as the board, should you choose to do so. What I would remind you of is that currently we're still in the zoning phase of all of this. Once zoning is approved, it is approximately 18 to 24 months for development after we receive the permits that are necessary for development. So you're looking at approximately 2 to 2.5 years right there before any of that development is really occurring and finalized. So if the commissioners desire to do so, the project would already be designed in phases of development anyway, but we would definitely consider a condition to limit the number of permits if that's your choice.
So my problem with see, this wasn't in our plan, so nobody expected 283 acres to come so that we have to shift everything that we've already planned to make this accommodation. So if we can't do it slowly and correctly, then I'm not even willing to concede. It's got to be something that this community can absorb. And to hear the angst in people's voices about, anybody who knows me knows that I don't do traffic very well. So to hear, people sitting in their driveways for several minutes before they can even get out, I'm concerned about, the children, access to schools, things like that. So those are the things that we would have to address before I'm even willing to think about these things.
And again, Commissioner, that's one of the reasons that we initiated the conversation with your Department of Transportation, because we understand that you also had some turnover during the time that we had the traffic impact study and the DRI prepared. So that's part of the reason. It's not that we don't feel like your department is trying to get the information to us. We understand there was some turnover. So the conversations do need to continue, and that's why we would like to propose the condition that we're able to continue those conversations and have a written agreement between Department of Transportation and D.R. Horton for the additional improvements that are needed. And I agree with you completely. Growth needs to happen in a smart way, and we are willing to entertain that condition should commissioners put it there.
Speaking of growth, so they mentioned your Emerald package. Why aren't we getting the top of the line packages?
So when new projects are determined for any community, not just this community, there is an analysis that goes into place of the housing that is needed in the area. And one of the things that we do have is data from Market Insight, who is a leading statistician in the area, John Hunt. I'm sure a lot of folks are familiar with him. He provides information to municipalities as well as third parties. The information that John Hunt has provided is that in Rockdale County, your housing supply shortage is really in that square footage range that's 2,500 square feet or less and $400,000 or less. Really where the sweet spot is in his data is between about $325,000 and $400,000 for the housing supply shortage. That's the greatest in Rockdale County. That's not to say that there's not a desire for some of that upper stuff, but our desire is to help fill in some of the missing housing that you have in your community currently.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams?
So what would be the price point of these homes?
So price is driven a lot by market, as you know. So if we had to estimate as of today, keeping in mind that it's 2.5 years before the first house goes vertical, we would estimate that the ranch-style homes, smallest square footage with no additional upgrades or anything, would start probably around $325,000. And then your larger square footage homes, keeping in mind 1,800 to 3,500 heated square feet is where our plans are, would be just above $400,000.
The 3,500 square feet homes?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess my concern is, you had a slide that said you were focused on firefighters, law enforcement, teachers, healthcare workers. Having taught school for 30 years, I know what teachers make. I could have never afforded a $325,000 home. So I'm not sure that that really targets that population. Those folks that were on your chart, they make less than $75,000 a year. So I think that's one of my concerns. I understand the data that you just shared about what's lacking in Rockdale County. I guess my other big concern is that's such a beautiful site. I would like to see, we also have a need for some more upscale custom homes. And that's what I would really like to see out there.
Ms. Hogan, any closing comments you'd like to make based on what you've just heard from the commissioners?
So, commissioners, just one thing that I would like to remind you of, and I appreciate your input, Commissioner Williams, as far as the price of homes. Currently in the metro Atlanta area, the average cost of what people consider a starter home is running around $345,000. So one of the reasons that we had that slide in place.
I know that's true. I'm not shaking my head disagreeing with you.
Yes,
I know that's true.
So one of the reasons that we had that slide in place is because D.R. Horton wants to help those folks be able to achieve the American dream. So that program that I talked about, Main Star Heroes, show your ideas an immediate incentive towards your home closing costs. That's one of the reasons that we are so detailed with our due diligence in the beginning and the way that we develop the sites so that we can keep the homes more affordable and competitive than some of those others, and we're not reaching the $345,000 for our starting price with the homes that we provide, so that those local heroes will be able to attain home ownership. Thank you so much, commissioners.
Thank you, Ms. Hogan. Thank you so much. All right, Deputy Director Wheeler, what's next?
The next case brought to you this evening is going to be, the applicant is going to be Battle Law. They're seeking to amend the future land use map from commercial to mixed-use employment and to rezone subject property from residential from C1 to residential multifamily. The subject property is 0 Southeast Highway 138, Southeast Highway 138, and Southeast to 2010 Weatherstone Circle. The subject property is for a total of 7.3 acres. Above you again is a subject site aerial.
And Deputy Director Wheeler, let's just pause just for a quick second to allow the transition to take place. A lot of folks came out for the first item and they're transitioning out so that we can hear and be respectful of each presentation and speaker. Give a moment or two so that the transition can take place. Thank you, Rockdale County. Thank you to all of those who came out for the first item. We do appreciate your time and you expressing yourself. Be safe as you travel back home.
Thank you for the extra time.
Yes, ma'am. At this point, we want to move forward with the next item. I do want to make mention of the proper decorum so that none of us will be here too late tonight. I'm going to ask that you just be mindful and respectful of the speakers. I also want to ask that each speaker would make their way completely to the podium and to the microphone so that all of us will be able to hear, and that our public relations department will be able to capture all of your sentiments. Deputy Director Wheeler is back in your hands.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The subject properties has frontage along, again, Highway 138 and Weatherstone Circle. As a point of interest for you on the aerial map, again, the subject properties are located to the southwest intersection of Highway 138 and Miller Chapel Road. As you move further east along Highway 138, you will enter the city limits of Conyers, eventually going into McDonough Highway. This is a current future land use map. Again, the future land use map is a commercial. In the current zoning for the subject properties are going to be commercial and office institutional. Above you is, again, the summary request by the applicant. Again, the applicant is looking to rezone and change the future land use map for the development of 45 attached townhome units. The overall density of the subject property would be 6.08 units per acre, while this RM zoning does allow for 12 units per acre. Some of the interesting notes of the request, the applicant does plan on doing front rear-loaded townhomes along Highway 138. They will be set back 15 feet. There will be an additional 5-foot setback, so approximately a 20 to 25 foot of frontage along the Highway 138. They do propose to have transitional buffers to try to minimize their impact on the Weatherstone subdivision. The property located to the east, they are indicating they're going to do a transitional buffer of 75 feet, as well as doing another 50-foot buffer to the west. I apologize. I'm sorry. It's a 50-foot buffer to the east, and then a 75-foot buffer to the west. The approximate distance between the approximate townhome to the closest Weatherstone property for the east property is approximately 25 feet. Not 25 feet, 225 feet the distance between them. The access points, again, are along Highway 138, so there will be a full access along Highway 138, but access to Weatherstone Circle is a box, or emergency access box, only for emergency access. For the properties that are to the east, for those townhomes, again, they will not be accessing to the main site of the townhome, but just specifically to the site of those townhomes located to the east. As well, they'll provide an amenities package such as a walking trail outside fire pit, as well as another amenities for pools and so forth. Staff did provide a technical analysis of the application with all our applications. I'm sorry, a technical report for all our applications. Staff did recommend approval of this application, but however, the Planning Commission did recommend denial of this application. So therefore, if you choose to approve this, staff does recommend that you approve it with the listed conditions in your packet. The applicant is here to provide his presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Michelle Battle with Battle Law, 3562 Haversham at North Lake, Tucker, Georgia, 30084. Appreciate Chris putting up our PowerPoint. We have been working on this project, and we can go to the next slide, with Cowart Residential. Cowart Residential is a family-owned company that does real estate development. They've been in business for over 40 years. They do their own land development as well as building, and so they are a smaller company that is very committed to doing quality work in the metropolitan Atlanta area. We can go to the next slide. Staff has already shown you, I've given you a little bit closer up shot of the site. You can see Weatherstone Circle going through the center of these two rather large areas that are undeveloped. We are across from the Leverett Funeral Home and down from the bank that is at the corner of Miller Creek and 138. Go to the next slide. So this project actually started back in 2019 before I was actually retained. The owner of the property has owned this property for in excess of 20 years and has been trying to sell it for development for its current use under commercial and O&I, because that is simply not their product. That has not proven to be fruitful for them over the last 20-something years, and as a result, they began looking at trying to develop the property themselves, seeking to rezone it. That process started in roughly 2019. I believe they even submitted an application. Eventually, I think it was withdrawn. They went to the Weatherstone Circle community, I believe sometime around 2020, looked at some concepts and drafts, but really didn't get anywhere. In 2021, we were retained roughly in September and had our first community member meeting in November. And at that meeting, we really tried to open ourselves up to the community to let them know that we wanted to hear what their comments and their concerns and their issues were, and we wanted to work very hard with them to try and address them. And that is what we believe we have done over the course of the last 18 months. When we look at what transpired in 2022, we had a meeting with GDOT. We invited the community representatives to come to that meeting. We had, I think, a very vigorous dialogue about what their interests were and what they wanted and what they didn't want along that corridor at 138, particularly in terms of their entrance into Weatherstone Circle. From that meeting, in order to obtain a full service access off of 138 across from Leverett, we conducted a traffic study, which was not required by staff, but was required in order for us to address the issues that have been raised by the community. So we obtained a traffic study. In September, we then updated the site plan to actually move units, the townhome units, to both sides of Weatherstone. And that was really in response to the issues and concerns that had been raised about the amount of traffic on Weatherstone Circle. We then had another full community meeting, and mind you, we've been having meetings off and on with the representatives from the HOA. And then we updated our traffic impact study to show what it would entail if we remove the commercial element. We can go to the next slide. Chris has already shown you the original site plan that we had submitted, where you can see that we actually had proposed an office building component on the O&I section with a area to the rear that was going to be utilized for amenity area green space. On the opposite side, you see where we had the 45 townhomes, 44 in that picture, 44 townhomes that were located on just one side of the site. We then went to the current site plan, if we can move to the next slide. And what you'll see here now is that we've got those 45 units spread over the two properties. We are maintaining a large area. In fact, one of the lots, what I would call the rear lot 3, that is adjacent to Ms. Gaines, who is here, I'm sure, this evening. That property will remain vacant, basically, with the exception of the amenity area and trail that we were posing there. There's a 75-foot buffer that is adjacent to the property line to protect the adjacent property owner, in addition to that area simply being green space. It's almost 210 feet before you get to the actual townhomes that are on that east side of Weatherstone. On the west side of Weatherstone, you'll see that we do have a total of 35 units on that side. We're providing for in excess of 75 feet, actually maybe even a little more, almost 80 to 90 feet before you actually get to the townhomes from their amenity area where their tennis and pool area is at. We actually have had some conversations about participating with some upgrades that they would like to make to that site, and we have opened ourselves to doing that, despite the fact that we still have some opposition from their community. We added outdoor seating areas, the trails. We exchanged that commercial aspect for more townhomes. We gave more space between the communities. We changed the entry to the development. We also changed units along 138 to be rear entry with the front elevations, all in an effort to address issues that have been raised by the community. Next slide, please. That's just a little closer up version for you. And again, we have a total of 45 units at a little under 7 units per acre, a little about, I think it's 6.08 units per acre. Next slide. This just gives a little bit more texture to where the elements are. Next slide. And then in November, we actually had a further dialogue with the community because they were concerned about the access point that the Transportation Department is requiring off of Weatherstone. So we went to the Transportation Department and submitted this plan. They reviewed and said that we could actually just do a Knox box for only an emergency entry off of Weatherstone. So on that side, you would have none of those 35 units on that side will have access from Weatherstone. Only the 10 units on the east side would actually have access to Weatherstone Circle, which is a significant reduction in the amount of traffic that will be produced along Weatherstone Circle. And it should be noted that when we met with the Transportation Department and GDOT, they indicated that we could not get any access point to the O&I side of the property. On the east side, they will not allow us to have any curb cut there. The community asked us to go to the bank and ask for a shared driveway easement. We did that. The bank said no. So right now, if we don't do any development or don't change this, if we don't change the zoning on here, the only point of access for those two O&I parcels is off of Weatherstone Circle. There is no ability to access it from 138 in terms of its current frontage. Next slide, please. These are what the townhomes would look like. We are sticking to what staff is recommending with regards to the building, facade design, as well as materials. Next slide. They all will have 2-car garages. Next slide. This is the signage that we are proposing. We wanted to do something that we felt was consistent with Weatherstone Circle and did not kind of override them, particularly in the area where those 10 units will be located at. Next slide. These are some of the thoughts that we had for the common area space. Next. And this shows again that the property currently has a land use designation. On the one side is general commercial and office, that's the zoning, and then the office institutional on the other side. We are again asking for the mixed use designation and for the RM zoning. Next. This is the traffic study information, and you can see here that the units, with 44 units, we have one more unit now, but with 44 units, we were only talking about 5 cars entering in the morning, 12 exiting during peak hours in the morning and peak hours in the afternoon, 12 cars entering, 10 exiting. With the office building, however, if we had kept that component, you can see that there were over 28 cars entering and 4 exiting during the peak hours, and then 6 and 28 exiting in the evening hours for a total of 34 vehicles. When you combine those two, well, we have removed now the entirety of the office building component. And if we can go to the next slide, you can see that when we updated that information with the 45 units, that we now only have a total of 5 cars entering, 13 exiting, and 13 entering and 10 exiting during those peak hours. And that's from both sides. That's not just one side. So basically, that's the entirety of the development as proposed. Next slide, please. So with that, with the removal of the commercial component, the estimated number of trip generations to the site actually reduced by half. On the next slide, I know there's a number of people who are going to talk, so I guess I'll wait, but there were a couple of slides that I wanted to address some of the issues that have been raised by the community, but I'll wait.
I just want to do a point of clarification. So since they're asking for 2 changes, so technically it's 20 minutes. So I apologize. I did not automatic update the timer on that. She still has additional 10 minutes.
I was going to say, yesterday I had a little bit more time.
All right, go right ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Director.
Thank you very kindly. I will not use all 20 minutes, though. Okay, we can go to the next slide. This is the school information. This was taken from the staff report, which indicates that in terms of the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school, that there is still capacity at those locations. I've certainly heard what the community has said, but we can only go by what the school board actually tells us, and that was what was in the package. Next. So I think it's really illuminating from the meeting last night that the community, particularly those who are here in opposition, have kind of lived off the fact that for the last 20-something years, nothing has happened on this property. And it's very clear that they want nothing to continue to happen on this property. That would be the preference, I'm sure, of all of them, that they have enjoyed the trees, they've enjoyed, not having anyone kind of interfere with what's happening at the front entry into their community. But the truth of the matter is this subdivision, Weatherstone Circle, was developed with this front portion intending to be commercial. So these lots have been left. They were left over from the subdivision, and at currently being zoned C1 and O&I think it's important to understand what is currently allowed on these properties. I've taken a kind of a snippet from the use table for Rockdale County. On the C1 side, it can be used for a daycare. It could be used, and these are permitted uses. A drug rehab center or other facility, beer, wine, and liquor store, convenience store with or without gas pumps, banquet hall, event center, coin-operated laundromat, drinking places. Those are all permitted uses, which means that anyone could come to the property tomorrow, purchase the property, and apply for a permit, and we would not have to go through this process because they are permitted uses. On the O&I side, with access solely from Weatherstone Circle, as I've already indicated, there could be a bank, there could be, again, the banquet hall, general office space, medical office space, a bed and breakfast, hotels and motels, barbershops, beauty salons, dry cleaner, and laundry stores. Again, all permitted uses under the O&I district regulations. I don't say that to be an alarmist. I say that to just be factual. That is what the code allows, period. I don't have to come here and ask for anything. As long as I apply for one of those things, I can get a permit tomorrow. If we go to the next slide, what you'll see here is that what does all of those uses have in common? Well, these are permitted uses that do not require the development or the company to work with the community to address any of their concerns, including limiting that access to Weatherstone, allowing the HOA to maintain their current signage at the entrance, which currently there's no sign easement for, but my client is willing to work with them to allow that signage to remain in place. Adding additional buffers to protect the residential community, none of that would be open. It would just simply be the 50-foot buffers that are required now. The community will have no control over what use is built so long as that use is permitted, which means that they will also have no say regarding the facades of the building, the orientation, the landscaping, the height, the signage, none of the stuff that we were willing to talk about. We can go to the next slide. So when we leave here today, what I know is that we have tried to address every issue that this community has raised. We have worked very diligently over the last year plus to try and make sure that anything that has been asked of us that we have dutifully tried to address. Those in opposition are certainly counting on this subject property remaining vacant. And if you can tell, I can tell you now that that's not going to happen. My client has been holding this property down, has been paying the taxes on it for over 23 years with nothing happening. With all of the new development that is beginning to occur in this area, we can see that there is a possibility that somebody might want to develop it for one of those commercial uses. But that's not really what my client would like to do because they would like to develop this property as a residential community. They don't want to do anything that will negatively impact the residential community behind it. And we don't want to roll the dice because it would be a roll of the dice because we don't know who might come and ask to buy. But we know that if Howard Residential does it, that they will get a quality community. They will have homeowners. I found it interesting last night that at the hearing, despite the fact that the Planning Commission seemed to understand the points made, that they still voted for denial, but they asked Chris to add a condition that if it were approved, that we would agree to no more than 5% rentals. And we have agreed to that. Again, something else that we were asked for that we agreed to last night. So I'd like to point those things out. We don't want to roll the dice. What we would like to do is to continue to work with this community, to work with them with the amenity area, to help them with the facilities that they need to upgrade. We are here to be a good neighbor and want to work cooperatively as we have already, and so we would respectfully request approval of the application. If we still need to do more work with the community, we are willing to do that. So I just put that out there, but we believe that we have done everything to address every question and issue that has been raised by the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Deputy Director Wheeler.
Make sure I get it right the first time. First person, well, we didn't have anybody sign up to speak in favor of this application. All we have is those who speak in opposition. And the first person is Ms. Nichelle Ford.
Okay, Ms. Ford.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Madam Commissioners. My name is Nichelle Ford, and I am here this evening in my capacity as president of the Weatherstone Homeowners Association. I stand before you this evening speaking on behalf of the homeowners in opposition to the agenda item number 7B. Weatherstone is a subdivision consisting of 260 single-family homes. It sits right off 138, right behind this new proposed development. This has been a long journey in that we have been engaged intently with the applicant since 2021, actually. After initially reaching out to us, they have had the opportunity to meet twice with us, with the entire membership, and also several times with myself and the Vice President, where we then in turn would share that information from those meetings with the membership in order that we could receive additional feedback to bring back to them. At our last meeting, a straw poll was held in order to determine the overall feeling of those who regularly attended meetings about whether they support this development. The results from the 36 members in attendance were 10 don't support it, 3 were neutral, 12 somewhat support it but with reservations, 5 support it, and 6 gave no responses. This all totals 36. While most responses are obvious, please allow me to offer explanation for those who chose the option of somewhat support it but with reservation. Weatherstone has been directly impacted by 3 of the current City of Conyers development projects: Alder Park, 119 homes; Conyers Emblem, the 264 luxury apartment unit; and the unnamed development that's coming with 94 single-family homes. This county development with 45 units will be the 4th. All of the before-mentioned nearly surround Weatherstone. While the applicant has worked diligently to address many of our, if not all of our concerns, you can see why there is unhappiness for us. Weatherstone has experienced the greatest impact of change. When you now travel on Miller's Chapel Road, you literally see the back of Weatherstone. The trees that were lining and buffering the subdivision have all disappeared. Because this development will sit directly in the front of our subdivision, there is concern for the beauty of our entrance, the traffic, the infrastructure, and many other things that you have all heard about or will hear about. This development will change the landscape of things that we have known them to be for 30 years. While it is understood that all things comes along with progress, please know that it is definitely a difficult situation that we are faced with. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Ford.
The next speaker is Ms. Debbie Harris.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners.
Good
My
evening.
name is Debbie Harris. I reside at 1810 Phillips Court, and I do not have the benefit of a PowerPoint presentation, but if possible, could I at least give you a couple of the photographs that I have? This will help assist me in explaining our current situation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
The first 4 photographs are of the construction that is presently taking place in the back of our subdivision. When I exit my garage, I am looking at this construction. On the very first page, you will see the survey stake. That is my property. I am in the county. When you look at the screen, that is the construction. That is in the city. So there is little or no deviation between the county and the city construction. I have lived in Weatherstone 23 years. My husband and I are retired military. We chose to live in Rockdale County. We didn't have to. We chose Conyers because of the beauty and because of the space. Weatherstone subdivision, I'm sure you all know, is a beautiful subdivision. And they're proposing 45 townhomes in a little over 7-acre area. The average home in Weatherstone have a site of at least a ½ acre and above. If this development mirrored our present subdivision, it would be a maximum of 14 homes. They state also that, well, the 10 townhomes will be using Weatherstone Circle. If you would turn with me past the first 4 pages, you will see what Weatherstone Circle looks like. It is one road in and out, divided by an island. Can you imagine an additional 10 residents trying to enter or exit from that small area onto 138? If you live in Conyers, you know how 138 is, and that is going east and west. We literally have a traffic jam each and every day trying to exit our subdivision with the homes that we already have. So when you're telling us that it's going to be 10 additional townhomes, but this is going to be beautiful, we're trying to do everything that we can to assist the neighborhood, and we appreciate that. But what we are trying to say is this. We have invested in our communities, 260 families. This is supposed to be our forever home. At this point, I have a difficult time even staying in my home because nobody talks about the construction process. There are huge earth-moving equipment. All I have to do is look out of my window. They wake me up each morning with the going back and forth, digging up dirt, the beeping, backing up, going forth. So all of my peace have been disturbed, along with about 60 families that run the perimeter of this new development. That development encompasses 93 single-family homes and 250 apartments. So how much more do we need? I understand development, but we need to do a focused development. If you looked at the number of open spaces in our schools, with the amount of development that we have right now, can our schools afford any more students? We want to give a quality education, not just say we have students in the classroom. But I believe, and I've heard people say, that if you want a quality of life, don't move to Rockdale County. I don't believe that. I believe that you can live in Rockdale County and have a good quality of life. So we're depending on you as our representative to voice our opinion. Sometimes the benefit of the residents outweigh the profit of the builder. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
The next speaker is Miss Beverly Gaines.
Come on up, Miss Gaines.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Beverly Gaines, and I'm at 2020 Weatherstone Circle. My house is going to be directly affected by everything anybody has said. And I'd like to respond to Debbie Harris's presentation and say, those are my sentiments exactly. The only thing I would say to you is that if it's decided that you're going to accept these proposals, that I have a privacy fence put next to my house, because there's going to be a walking trail, and I don't want to think that my property will be affected by people walking up and down that trail. That doesn't give me a good feeling. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gaines. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Ms. Jackie Kelsey.
Ms. Kelsey, come on up.
Commissioner and other board members, good evening.
Nice.
I am Jackie Kelsey, and I live at 1808 Phillips Court here in Conyers, next to Ms. Harris. And I definitely oppose the building of these apartments or townhomes or whatever you call them, because right now it's all I can do is repeat what others have said: is infrastructure and overcrowdedness. Rockdale County does not have the infrastructure. We got to work on that first before we start putting all these other homes and all of this in our community. And I moved here 19 years ago because it was away from Atlanta. I don't want this to be the new Atlanta. I want the peace and quiet that Rockdale has. It was peaceful, it was quiet, and I loved it. Now the beauty of our trees, it's affecting our environment, and I say no to this rezoning.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kelsey.
Next person is Big Tommy Pummel.
Big Tommy Plummer.
Did he put Big Tommy on the?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
ma'am.
he wrote that. If he read it, he wrote it. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, he wrote it. Come on up here, Big Tommy Plummer.
No, you wrote it. You got to own it.
Today is Thursday, tomorrow is Friday. 35 years with the Department of Transportation over traffic signals and streets. What I'm looking at now, definitely oppose this project. As everybody said, I don't have to go back over everything. You don't have the infrastructure to do it. 90% of all the streets in Rockdale County are 2 lanes, east or west or north or south. So if you did that project, and Weatherstone has what they call a one-way in and one-way out, how would the people get out? I mean, we're catching it now. Now, I have to be at the courthouse at 8:30, so now the traffic is backing up all the way down to the mortuary. So you have to wait there. Dare not try to turn left. I even heard, I think it was somebody from Hardin said, they actually went to the bank and asked them, can you make a right turn in their parking lot? Oh, where are we going with this? No, you're just not set up for it. Parker Road is really tough. They actually they were doing some work on a curb in there, and I actually told them it was too sharp for the speed limit. So they did change that. I'll take credit for that. I told them, I said, hey man, it's just too sharp. You're gonna have to back out a little bit. And they did that. And so what I'm saying here, you got a traffic problem. I don't want to go into, and last but not, I don't want to go into this too deep, but then what about water treatment plant? I've been to that plant. It's really struggling right now, and you're going to add more to it. What about snapping shows? That's getting a little rough now. I'm getting spikes every now and then. I'm sure people live here in Rockdale are getting it. Every now and then, your lights will go out and right back on. So at some point, Snapping Shows is going to have to put in another distribution plant to handle the electricity that's going on. It just can't stay the same, and you have to grow with that. And God, you know what comes next. The property tax.
Thank you, Big Tommy Plummer. Thank you so much. All right.
Next person is Miss Lisa Anderson.
Ms. Anderson, come on up. Ms. Anderson, you get the Citizen of the Night Award. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you so much. Deputy Director Wheeler.
Next person is Elwood Collins.
Sergeant Collins, come on up.
Thank you, Commissioner, Ms. Williams and Ms. Washington. I'm honored to be here. I'm more concerned with the plight of the community. Like was stated, we got 260 homes, got one way in. And by implementing these changes, it's going to be very complex because if anybody know Weatherstone Circle, they have a lot of people who want to walk the dogs in our community. If you have an apartment complex, everybody's not going to abide by that speed limit of 35 miles. Someone could get killed. So people who is in an apartment, they're not like us. We got retired military, we got business owner, and people been there for years. We have a very comfortable life. So with all this interruption, and like was stated, Park Road, 130, trying to get out is hectic. And it can make things complex. People have not done a feasible traffic control yet because they're more concerned about greed and not need. They need to be concerned about what the community, we don't need in apartments and those cheap townhouses because you bring a certain group of people to the community, okay? We don't need that. And your homes are not safe because the seller is concerned about putting people in homes. Right now, homes are safe. I can leave my doors open. But when you're bringing these people in, your homes are not safe. Right now, we have a very safe community. We have very low police activities. Matter of fact, I don't think we have any. So we don't need that, and I'm voting no to this zoning that they're trying to do. And I'm gonna tell the young lady, roll the dice.
Next speaker is Ms. Diane Lee Collins.
Ms. Collins, come on up.
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Commissioner Washington, Commissioner Williams. I'm just gonna say no. And I'm just hoping BOC, y'all just do the right thing. What's best for the community and what's best for the people. We gotta look out for our people in Rockdale County. We got Conyers building this. We got gas stations getting built. What are we looking at? We don't have nowhere to have fun in Rockdale County, in Conyers also. So we're supposed to be looking at economic development. We just go to work and just come home. We don't have no nice restaurants, except McDonald's. What do we got? So if you want to look at something about this ARC, economic development, what the people want, you say you've got 3 people on the committee, then you want to bring 20 people. Do you listen? You have to listen to the people. You have to listen to the people. We live here. We pay taxes. We pay taxes here. Our money counts. And Voices of Rockdale, Voices of the People right here. And you got more to come, but people got to start speaking up. We want to live here, but we want our commissioners to look out for us. As we look out for you, when it comes time, y'all have to look out for us too. Now, if she want to roll the dice, she can go ahead and roll the dice, because there's going to be some hell coming up. You better believe that. Okay? You better believe that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Collins.
That's all the public comment cards we have.
Okay, all right.
Again, it feels like there's an assumption that there's nothing going to happen on this property. And there is something that will happen at some point on this property. It will not remain vacant forever. I know that it is disconcerting with all the development that is happening around. And yet at the same time, my client has a right to develop their property. If anybody in here owned property as investment property, they would feel the same way that they feel. that I bought this property, I want to do something with this property. He has sat on this property for over 23 years. At this point, by law, there are laws that follow how we do zonings, which includes looking at whether or not there is any viable use for the property as currently zoned. We believe that after 23 years of sitting here on the commercial side, that we would like to be able to develop this property in a residential manner that is more consistent with the community that is behind, that we're trying not to do anything to exacerbate any problems or issues that they have. We have added additional buffers, unlike the construction that they were talking about on the Conyers side, where there is no buffers because those were single-family residential homes that were being built, so they did not have to have any buffers on their side. We have buffers. We've got over 75 feet of buffer on our side to protect that community so that when they come down Weatherstone, the first thing as they're coming out they don't see is the townhomes that will be located there. These are fee simple townhomes. These are not apartments. These people will be paying in excess of $300,000 for these townhomes. That is what the price point on these are. And these, we're talking about 1,400 square feet townhomes, 1,400 to 1,600 square feet, 24 foot wide with a 2-car garage. These are not people who are just simply moving in, particularly when we've agreed to a 5% rental restriction. These are homeowners. They will be paying a significant amount of money to live in this location that is convenient for live, shop, work, as people will be able to traverse along 138 and the other areas to do shopping and the like. Those are things that help to cut down on traffic, not increase traffic along that corridor. We will be putting the sidewalks in front of the property on both sides of Weatherstone. We will be preserving their signage. We will be preserving the white fencing that they have along there. There was a lot of discussion about the tree canopy as you come into Weatherstone Circle. My client is very in tune with keeping that tree canopy so that there will be no interference there and that we are maintaining the beauty of that drive into the community because he cares. I can't guarantee you that somebody else that may come and buy this from him would care as much. But what I can tell you is that we are dedicated to putting in a quality product that is with other homeowners who will be living in this community. We don't anticipate a lot of children because of the size of this community that we are proposing. If Ms. Gaines doesn't like the walking trail, we don't have to have the walking trail. I can tell you that now. We don't have to have the walking trail. We can just have that as green space area. But we thought that it might be nice and maybe we could even do something in coordination with the community so that they could kind of dually utilize that space. But if that's not what is wanted, we're okay. We'll work with them with regards to that. So again, we would respectfully request approval of the application as submitted. We are also willing to continue dialogue and continue working with this community. We've been doing it now for over almost a year and a half. And so if another meeting would be helpful, we're willing to do that. But we would respectfully ask, do not require this landowner who has been paying his taxes too for the last 23 years on this property, to wait longer to put something there that quite honestly may not be. I understand roll the dice, but you say roll the dice now, but if somebody comes and puts a liquor store there tomorrow, then everybody's gonna be pissed off. I'm just being honest about it. So I would ask that we really consider this project, and if there's any questions or issues that I can address, I'd be happy to do so.
Thank you, Ms. Battle. Before you leave the podium, commissioners, do you have any questions for Ms. Battle?
Sure. My biggest concern right now is the fact that you've heard several people say that they would prefer this to remain commercial and to recruit the kinds of amenities that we're looking for. And so I don't understand why you wouldn't see what you have as being the best use because of all the development that's coming around. Now you have the rooftops. They're saying they want, and I've said many, many times, we need the restaurants, these people in Weatherstones, they definitely have the demographics and the income to support that. The developments that's occurring, that could support that. I don't understand why you would go from having something that could be developed to meet the needs of the community to wanting us to approve something that the community is in opposition of.
So I think a couple of things on that. I think one, with all due respect, the folks who have come out sound like the folks that during the meeting that they had where they took the vote it's usually those who are in opposition who come. There was also those who appeared to be supportive, although they are a bit skeptical because of all the other things. I've actually spoken to a few myself who have said, you know, if I had to make a choice between something commercial and this residential project, I'll take the residential. I think that's a question that should be asked because you're hearing these 10, but I don't know that that's what the others, because we had 5 who voted for and 12 who said, I can live with this as opposed to something else, or at least I can live, I don't want to put words into Ms. Ford's mouth, but she indicated that there were, I think it was 12 people that were somewhat supportive. So those people are not here this evening, but I think that voice should be heard as well. We have been working, my client has owned this property again for 23 years. He has been waiting for somebody to want to develop this property in a way that he thought would be appropriate for this property. He has not gotten any bites at this moment. But I can tell you that right now, he certainly is committed to trying to do this particular project. Now, is he saying that no restaurant would ever locate here? I don't know the answer to that. Up to this point, none has sought to be located in this location. But I think we also have to remember, it's not just one property. They talk about the traffic issues that they have, and that they don't want any more traffic on Weatherstone. But everyone seems to keep forgetting that that other side of the property is zoned O&I. And there's only one way to get into it. So even if there was something commercial, that restaurant put on the other side, the O&I side is still there. It's still there. It's still available for different uses that would bring more traffic to Weatherstone than what we are proposing. I haven't heard that they want something that's going to generate a lot of traffic. What I'm hearing is we really don't want really anything here, but if something is going to come, we'll roll the dice if it's something that we want or if we don't want. We'll live with whatever that commercial use is. We all move in communities. Trust me, I live in one where my home is at, and I really would love to have a nice sit-down restaurant and some other things within the neighborhood, but it's not there yet. I get that, as they say, gentrification is coming, and that may bring some of the things that I want. But meanwhile at the ranch, this landowner has been waiting for over 20-something years for something to happen. I think he's waited long enough.
But has he marketed?
Yes,
so
he has marketed the property.
And so the people,
and
are they saying that we don't have the rooftop? I mean, what's the problem with us?
He is not here tonight. I will be happy to provide some information for you from him with regards to the marketing efforts that he has had and who's, where he's gotten bites from or he hasn't gotten bites from with regards to the property. I'd be happy to provide that information.
And so, I forgot the young lady's name who wants the privacy fence. Mm-hmm. Where are you all with helping?
I don't think we have a problem with the privacy fence. We've spoken with her. He's even come to her home. I believe she had wanted him to see exactly what the impact would be, and that's why we were giving the additional buffer. But if she needs a fence with a buffer, that's not a problem. I don't see that as of an issue. We've actually spoken about that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams, any questions for Ms. Battle?
I don't have any questions. I think Commissioner Washington has asked good questions, and you have given us a lot of good information. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple of things
Yes.
that I do have. First, I do want to say this, Ms. Battle. Myself and the board, over the time that we've been serving together, have really encouraged every developer to spend time and do their due diligence and communicate with local residents. You have certainly, you and your team have gone above and beyond in terms of reaching out with the communication. Even the HOA president, Ms. Ford, has attested to that. So I do commend you for your due diligence in reaching out to the community. Having said that, I want to ask a question because you have stated that for 23 years your client has owned this property. You may not have the answer, but I'm going to ask. And I'd just be interested to know, even if you can't provide it tonight, you can get it back to us. Do you know how much money your client wants for that property?
I don't know the answer to that, but I'd be happy to find out.
I'd be really interested to hear that dollar amount. I've got several things I've been listening to from the commissioners and from the community, but I'd just like to know what is his dollar amount to sell that property, and would you restate the amount of acreage it is?
I believe it's 7.14 with both sides. One is a little over 5 and the other one's a little over 2.
That's what I thought. Commissioners, any other questions for Ms. Battle?
No, I want to know.
Ms. Battle, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I look forward to a follow-up from you. Thank you. Deputy Director Wheeler.
Yes, sir. The last case brought to you this evening is 2304, 2322, 2332 Old Covenant Highway. Applicant is Faith Delivery Corporation. They are seeking to rezone 3 parcels for a total of 8.6 acres for the development of a development from R1 single family to M1 for development of a truck parking.
Okay, we're going to hold tight just for this transition that's taking place real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for coming out tonight and expressing your views and opinions about the development here in Rockdale County. Sergeant Collins, Ms. Collins, thank you all. Okay, let's proceed forward.
Yes, before you is the aerial photo of the subject property. That property has frontage along Old Covington Highway, and it does abut Interstate I-20. It is located to the north of the intersection of Sigmund and I-20. This is the future land use map of the subject property. Again, it has the future land use designation of light industrial. Currently, it is R1 single-family detached homes. This is the proposed site plan of the truck parking area. A few interesting notes. The applicant is planning on doing development of commercial truck parking for his business. So therefore, he'll have trucks entering and leaving on site to make deliveries, local deliveries for his business. Currently, he has 25 trucks currently in his business. He does seek to believe that over time, he will be around 40 trucks located on the site. As well as he's looking to do a transitional buffer against the residential zone properties to the north, well, actually kind of sandwich in between both properties, 75-foot buffer and a 50-foot buffer. As well, he's going to do an 8-foot privacy fence as well. He does intend to make use of the existing home on the site to turn into his office. Again, like with all zoning applications, staff has provided technical analysis of each application. Staff did recommend approval with conditions for this application. However, the Planning Commission did recommend denial of this application. If you choose to pursue approval of this application, staff does recommend you approve with the set of 9 conditions in your staff report. The applicant is here to provide a presentation.
Okay, thank you. Please come forward.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and esteemed commissioners.
Good evening.
My name is Hugo Gonzalez. I am living in the city of Conyers. Address is 2502 Flat Shoals Road. I've been living in Conyers for about 8 years. I'm here today and I apologize, my English, I'm still working on it. I'm here to speak on my behalf, my family, and also my community, which is all these people, and I share the same concerns as them in all the cases that being presented today. We're a family-owned business. We do transportation. We specialize in food, refrigerated and dry. We supply places like Walmart, Publix, Target, Amazon, in the area. But we are mainly over-the-road carriers, which means our trucks are not in-state. We have an interstate operation. We keep our trucks 2 or 3 weeks outside, and when we get back to the county, we bring goods from different states. I do share the same concerns as the community, since I'm living here as well. My parents, my wife, and my boys, which were born here, we're not here to disrupt this community or the peace we live in. We're very happy living in this county. And I think I didn't explain myself properly yesterday. We're not gonna be loading or unloading any loads in this area. We've complied with every single ordinance and law, and we do believe that around us everything's industrial. We got wood mills, junkyards, huge warehouses around us. And the impact on the traffic with our company is gonna be pretty much none. Probably 1 or 2 trucks coming and leaving this place a day, if so happens. With me is Engineer Moore, and he will explain in detail what we are trying to do here. Thank you very much for listening to me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hugo. Hey, good evening, Board of Commissioners. My name is Robert Moore. I'm a civil engineer representing Mr. Hugo. As he stated, we are wanting to rezone this property from R1 to M1. And just to be clear, his business is not to park or lease spaces or rent spaces for trucks to park. This is for his fleet vehicles. He does a transportation company, as he said, for Publix, Amazon, Walmart, different companies like that. I've heard that traffic is a concern. And so with regards to traffic, as he stated, most of his trucks will be on the road for several weeks at a time. He estimates at the maximum 4 vehicles leaving and entering his facility a day. That's minimal. With regards to the site plan that we produced, after this gets rezoned, we're subject to a lot of scrutiny for our design to meet codes in the city. So with regards to stormwater, we will be providing a extended detention micropool pond and also bioretention areas that will filtrate stormwater runoff before we discharge it. We will be providing any and all necessary traffic-related improvements that are required by the Department of Transportation during our review and design. And that will be paid for by the owner. As Hugo was talking about, this is his family business. His plan for growth is up to 40 units here. Getting much bigger than that would not be advantageous for him. He wants to have other locations throughout the state. That's where his advantage in growth is. So that's his future plan. As you saw by the future land use map, this corridor is an industrial corridor. There are a few lots that are left that are residential, and he owns one of them. So it is a little inevitable that they will eventually be industrial. As stated and as shown on the site plan, there will be 75-foot transitional buffers with fencing, 50-foot planted buffers all along any residentially adjacent properties to his site. And that's all I have. We just request that this be rezoned. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Deputy Director Wheeler.
We have 7 public comment cards, so I would like to ask the Board of Commissioners, would they like to extend time just in case we do run over our allotment of 10 minutes?
Can we take a 10-minute break?
So, Deputy Director Wheeler, the request I'm receiving at this moment is that we take about an 8-minute break. So we're going to do that. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back, and we will talk about the time for those folks who signed up to
Yes, sir.
speak.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much.
We're about to start swimming already.
make her way back to the stage, we're going to prepare to. It's too late to eat, so you have to just get a snack or something. 'Cause it's too late to eat. You can't have a whole. You can't go home and eat rice and gravy and macaroni and collard greens and crackling cornbread and all that, Miss Geller. You can't do that. You're gonna have to just get you some fruit, and
Meet me at Frozen
and a
Notes.
tall glass of water that's gonna fill you up, and then you watch the late news and going on into La La Land, because it's too late to be eating anything heavy. You try to eat a big old baked potato over there at Jimmy Nick's with all that stuff they put on it, you're gonna be up all night. So I'm just,
Meet me at Frozen Notes after this. I can show you better than I can tell you.
Amen.
All right. Now see, all she needs is encouragement. Do not encourage her.
I apologize, but it's late at night.
We're calling our meeting back to order. Thank you so much. Deputy Director Wheeler, take us home.
Yes, sir. So as we mentioned before we did a break, we do have several public comment cards in opposition. So as a courteous, I do ask if we could extend time for them so we make sure that all people, everybody can speak. I'll leave it up to your discretion as far as the additional time.
And how many cards do you have?
We have 7, sir.
I think I can use my discretion per speaker, so let's move forward and we'll make sure everybody get a chance to speak.
Yes, sir. First person to speak in opposition is Mr. Brian F. Wilson.
Mr. Wilson, come on up.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good
Of you guys that still remain esteemed commissioners. So I'm Byron F. Wilson. I'm the founder of the Wilson Academy. And contrary to what you heard, everything in that area is not industrial, because tucked away on a 7-acre plot at 2360 is the Wilson Academy. We are a K through 12 private school of high achievers, so it is not industrial. And because of that, I do have quite a few concerns that I want to go. I'm not going to take up all the time, but the first thing is larger blind spots. I have kids. And so it's hard enough to see a child in a car. Seeing it in a semi-truck is almost impossible. Longer braking distance. It takes twice as long for a semi to stop. So even a slow-moving truck, you're looking at 200 feet. And by 200 feet, the child is dead. There's no collision in which a child survives with a semi-truck. The risk to parents. I also have parents that are picking up. I'm not even going to deal with traffic at this point, because that's minute in terms of my concern for safety of the students. So the risk to parents, when you talk about collision with the car, the impact of a collision in a car pales in comparison to the impact of a collision in a semi-truck or a truck of the like. It's harder to control. Wind gets away from it, physics. So you talk about momentum, trying to stop a truck is a lot different than a car. So a kid coming out in front or anything like that, it's a lot different. It's dangerous cargo. So when we talk about these things, these are people commit, they say we're not going to do this. The reality is, once the zoning changes, all bets are off. People can do what they want to do. And so I can't control what's on these trucks. It could be hazardous chemicals. It could be large items that could roll off of the truck and hit a child. There could be a lot of things that could be a danger to children. Exhaust. So there's more exhaust. There's more dangerous emissions. I have kids with asthma. It's like regular people have those things. So you have more emissions going to the air in the area. There's also a concern. Noise. We're a school. There's trucks. I don't have to tell you what that means. Decrease in property value for us, because all of these things lends to a decrease in property value. The reason that's a point of concern for us is we have to leverage the property value to be able to get loans to do improvements on our property, like for the playgrounds or gyms or all of these things. And we have a decrease in the property value because of these issues. That's problematic for the school operating budget. Then also, the area zone to industrial opens the door to all types of heavy metal, dangerous things in the area. It's not just them, it's that rezoning process. It opens the door to other things that we can't control. And the last thing, I know this may seem like, but there's a criminal element that comes along with it. So I know you said that's subjective. Much of what they said is also subjective, so I'll do the same. So you guys know that in terms of the country, Atlanta's now number one city in terms of sex trafficking. I have girls. I have a 10-year-old daughter that goes to school. There is an element that comes with trucking, truck stops, truck parking, whatever you want to call it, whatever they said last night, it was 20-something trucks, now it's 40-something. Things change. So my issue is that as well. It's safety for me, all of it. I have nothing against these gentlemen personally as business people. It's just that my priority is protecting our children. So my thing is, I need you all to help me in that regard. I need you to help us to keep these children safe. It is what it is, nothing against these gentlemen personally, but I have to speak on behalf of my children and their parents that rely on me to keep their kids safe.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
All right, next speaker, please.
Ms. Lachelle Williams.
Ms. Billings, come on up.
Good evening, Chairman
Good
Nesbitt,
evening.
Commissioner Washington, Commissioner Williams. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be heard. Again, my name is Lachelle Williams. I'm a resident of Royal Lake Estates. And first off, I want to say it's not about Royal Lake Estates. It's not about my neighbors. It's not only about the schools. It's all collective. And then those that are not here this evening. So we are asking for you to deny the rezoning of the property for the truck parking lot for safety, safety. I cannot say that enough. Now, as the gentleman had presented earlier, yes, there's plenty of trucks, there's truck stops there, it's an industrial area, part of it, but that is the other part that is an industrial area. What they're wanting to do is take and change a residential area to rezone it. We are not opposed to growth. We welcome growth. We know growth will happen, but we want growth that will be better for the community, better for Conyers, better for the land that they want to take the change. So number one, safety. Number two, traffic. And it's already backed up. Currently, there's many residents that already go out their way, including myself, to get to Sigmund, to get to 20. And we've seen trucks even get stuck because, quite honestly, the area that they want to change over is not conducive for that. And realistically, I don't feel that it will be. Now, they are proposing that they want to do 20 or 40 trucks or whatever. That may be true today, but if it's rezoned, who's to say what will be next year or the year after that? I was born at night, but not last night. And every business exists to grow. And so while they may start small now, as they have demands from the Publix and the other big names they threw up, the demand will grow. The trucks activity will grow. And so we're looking at something that will get out of hand if you even open the floodgates to that right now. Even breaking it down further, traffic concerns at a granular and necessary consideration are as follows. Short and long-term impact for safety and higher congestion. Along with higher congestion becomes more accidents, right? There's already a lot of activity out there already. Secondly on that is the emergency vehicles such as fire and ambulance and police response times may be affected. We already have 2 additional large warehouses that are already being built on Covington Highway. So we'll have the traffic that comes along with that. There's an existing truck stop already on Covington Highway, an existing truck stop already on 124. And I believe because these things are already there, I understand as businessmen, they think, well, that's there, why not? We should go there too. But the reality of it is they're trying to change, once again, property to set aside for residential. I'm not against any business trying to grow, but why not consider somewhere where it's already zoned for them to come instead of changing residential? We look at also the increased impact on the Rockdale County school buses entering and leaving. As it stands now, some of the buses already get the kids to school late, so this will add to it. Again, we heard a proposal this evening that first there was going to be 1 truck leaving probably at night, and then 4 trucks leaving. I'm getting kind of confused about, is it going to be 1 or 4? Is it going to be 16? Is it going to be 20? Realistically, I don't see how a company can flourish with 1 or 4 trucks going in and out. I don't feel like we're getting the whole picture of what's to come. And again, this is not about Royal Lake Estates. It's not about the school. It's not about just my neighbors. It's about what's in the best interest of Rockdale County for that particular area and space. As I said, we're looking for it to grow. As a matter of fact, our community is looking forward to a meeting with Mr. Hanna of the Rockdale Economic Planning Commission to explore options of growing that area is with safer options for residentially zoned property. So we realize that we'll continue to grow. And so we're not discouraging the growth of this company. We want to see any company flourish, but not in a residential area. So it's not in the best interest of Conyers, it's not in the best interest of the residents, and it's definitely not in the best interest of school transportation. So at this point, it seems like it's only in the best interest of Faith Deliveries Corporation and S3 Transport. So with that, we're asking respectfully for you to please deny the petition to change this and rezone it into a truck parking spot.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Ms. Debbie Owens.
Ms. Owens, come on up.
Debbie Owen. I live at 1948 Lester Road, and I've lived there for 30 years. And it was exactly 30 years ago, 1993. We moved in, and we no sooner moved in than all of a sudden there was a rezoning issue. And I had never been involved in rezoning issues, but that was my first one. And they wanted to change Plunkett Road into a transfer station. And that's way before your time, 30 years ago. But that was devastating. They wanted to change it into a transfer station, which means Atlanta wanted to dump their trash in our county. And I mean, that was just devastating that's what's thought of. And, you know, as I'm living there, it seems like I keep coming to these meetings because somebody wants to trash our part of the county with different things. And to me, this thing is another trashing of our little part of the county. And I just, there's so many things you have denied in the past. And I just am hoping and praying that you deny this one too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Mr. Charlie Watkins.
Mr. Watkins, come on up, please. Ms. Williams, y'all have a good evening. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you so much.
So, Mr. Chairman, while we're transitioning right now, it might be in the board's interest to add maybe 5 or 10 minutes to the timer.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Duly noted.
Okay, I don't need 5 minutes.
All right.
Good evening, Chairman,
Yes.
and other chairmen. My name is Charlie Watkins. I live at 2181 Lake Rockaway Road. I have a question before I get into my presentation for the denial. Chairman Nisbeth, you mentioned that nothing to be voted on tonight. It'll be voted on Tuesday, March the 14th.
Yes, sir.
At 10 p.m. Would that meeting be open to the public?
10 a.m.
10 a.m., I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. It would be open to the public. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Now for my presentation for denial. I'm a businessman and I'm pro-business and I'm for smart business. This particular project here, it just don't fit our area. On Plunkett Road, we got HydroPro, we got Volume Trucking, we got Yellow Wood. On Lake Rockaway Road, as you come over the railroad tracks, we have a truck repair shop. And right now, Covington Highway is choked out with traffic. God forbid if it's an accident on I-20, where will that traffic come? It'll bleed on to Covington Highway. And also, the item C on the agenda, it hadn't even been talked about. You're talking about possibly putting another 273 units on Lake Rockaway Road. Where's that traffic gonna go? It's gonna go on Old Covington Highway. I respectfully request that this board deny this request. And also, one other thing I have, it wasn't mentioned what type of pad would be on the property for the trucks. Is it gonna be asphalt? Is it gonna be concrete? What are they considering? That was not answered.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Mr. Johnny Smith.
Come on up, Mr. Smith. Mr. Johnny Smith. At least we got one Voorhees tiger in the house.
There you go.
Okay, all right.
Tigers. Good evening,
Good evening.
distinguished board members. Thank you guys for giving us time to express our disapproval of this application.
Now, wait a minute, Mr. Smith. Now, you're not finna preach, are you?
I will.
Well, you sound the way you was coming up into that.
I will bring it.
I'm just go ahead. I'm just. We're gonna give you the time you need. I just was paying attention to where you came to that podium.
Talk about
Absolutely.
getting me started.
So in this proposal that the business is trying to bring into our community, we are right now stressed out with semi-truck 18-wheelers right now. As someone has mentioned before, on the very west side of Old Covington Highway and Scenic Highway, they're building some massive warehouse, which I would imagine would contain at least 60 doors, as is Kinko Distribution Center on Old Covington Highway that exists today has 60 doors. And in addition to the planning board, which has pretty much said that if this is approved, this business will have the opportunity to put 8 trucks per acre, which would mean 80 trucks on a lot. We have also Yellowwood, we have HydroX. This massive amount of trucks is tearing up our roads. 18-wheelers will tear up roads. They're emitting diesel exhaust fumes. There's that issue. And there's dangers around truck parking and truck stops. And being that it's so close to a school, which we are putting our kids in danger, and if we're not protecting our young people and putting them first, are we being responsible citizens or adults by allowing danger to encroach on them? It's enough that as adults we're encroached upon with over-industrialization, but having these type of things come into our communities and not caring about the communities in which we live. You can say, well, you live in the community, but do you really care about the community? If you cared about the community, would you do the responsible thing as a good neighbor and consider putting your business in a safe and responsible place, not trying to convert residential property into commercialization, which we're over commercialized. And I have also witnessed a jackknife 18-wheeler on the very small roads in which everyone wants to navigate to. And as we know, as a truck driver, you're trying to get somewhere, you're gonna go to the fastest route you possibly can to drop that load. And if you're doing that, you're gonna go wherever you have to go. If you have to go through a residential property to get that load to where it needs to be, you're gonna do it. That's being real, okay? So I oppose that. And then where's the vision for, as a community, Commissioner Washington, you almost made me get up and shout, speaking of preaching, but you almost made me shout because after that ARC presentation, you talked about the beautification and about the empowerment of Rockdale County being what it should be, the potential of what Rockdale County can be for its citizens, and being a proud place where it will attract people to come because of what beautification it provides for residential living and business opportunity and safe and responsible areas where kids can live and grow. So if you're looking for a volunteer for that, here I am. And
got this.
thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The last speaker is Miss Mary Strickland.
Ms. Strickland, come on up.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening, Ms. Strickland.
I'm Mary Strickland Edon. I reside at 2213 Lake Rockaway Road. And Lake Rockaway and Old Covington Highway connection is not far from where this truck parking is asking to be. I'm concerned about the traffic congestion, also the safety, the school being next door, the students. That's very concerning for me. Also, going from a R1 zone, single-family residential, to the truck parking, the M1, we need to keep it for the residential. And if a truck parking facility is needed, it needs to go into the M1 zone for that type of facility. But we need to keep everything safe. That's all I can say.
Ms. Strickland, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes public comment, but the applicant probably has a balance of time. Would you like to address?
Come on up, sir.
Well, thank you for the time. And again, I'm part of this community. I share the concerns. The Wilson Academy just has Kenco next to its door, which loads probably 100 or 200 loads a day. There is plenty of traffic, truck traffic coming in and out in Old Covington Highway. We got dump trucks. We got flatbeds hauling wood. And again, I don't think my company will be affecting the traffic that much, since we operate in all 48 states and we only come every 2 or 3 weeks. Yes, we can measure the amount of trucks that can come in, and probably it's not gonna be even one in certain days. So I don't think that's gonna be a real problem. And again, we've been consolidating lots for nearly 2 years. And we have we have had plenty of offers to sell this land, and none of them wants to build homes. Actually, nobody wants to build to live over there in that Old Covington Highway spot. I do want to summon, if you allow me, Mr. Leonetti, which is a business owner in Old Covington Highway. He owns the junkyard just in front of the county offices. And he would try, he can explain better the situation, because he's been for a longer time there, if it's okay with you all.
We're running on time, but I'm going to allow him to come on up. Come on
Thank
up,
you,
sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Come on up, sir.
Thank you. My name is PJ Leonetti. I'm here on behalf of Allied Recycling. It's 2495 Old Covington Highway. Initially came for the homes that were going to be built on Lake Rockaway, but I'm not sure if we're going to get to that. I think this man's business is misunderstood. We were in the trucking business. He is not trying to park all of his fleet on this property. When we were in the trucking business, we would make sure that, say somebody came home after being 3 weeks on the road, they would park their truck, a wife would come, or a girlfriend, or somebody would come pick them up, and the truck would stay there over the weekend, and they'd come back there on Monday, and they're back on the road again. From what we're seeing on Old Covington Highway, I think the area is pretty industrial, and I can't speak for those that live on Lake Rockaway, but we see trucks coming in and out. We see business with Volume, we see business with Great Southern Wood Preserve, we have Batchelor and Kimball, we have all these large companies, not to mention the Kenco and the other distribution centers coming down the road. I think this gentleman, what he's trying to do with his business is that when he's saying 4 or 5 trucks are gonna be there, he may have a fleet, say he had a fleet of 100. There's only going to be 4 that are going to be rotating in and out because they're going to be on the road at all times. From what I could see, I think that area is becoming very industrial. I don't see why it would be that big of an issue if he just were parking trucks there. He's not going to be unloading, from what I can understand, especially if he's in reefer units. they're going to be loaded or empty trailers that are just biting to go to the next stop.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming up tonight.
Thank you.
Deputy Director Wheeler, where are we at this point?
We're at board discussion right now.
Commissioner Washington?
The last few months of planning and zoning and changing have been the most difficult since I've been elected. And there's so many things that we are taking in consideration when we're sitting here, not just the direction of the county, but also the rights of the landowners. The fact that we don't necessarily like to be in litigation because every time we deny something, they sue us. But like I've said before, this county, we have to grow. We have to grow smartly, and we're gonna have to make decisions that perpetuate that growth. I haven't made any decisions on any of these presentments tonight. I have now heard both sides of the story. You all can rest assured that I've done the research on most of it. I haven't been out to this last one yet, but I've definitely been to Weatherstone. I've definitely been out to Honey Creek. I think I've gone above and beyond to try to figure this out, because these are hard decisions, but that's what you all elected us for. So I guess stay tuned to March 14th.
Commissioner Williams?
I had one question for you. Do your trucks carry hazardous material?
No, we don't have any license to carry hazardous materials, nor is our intention to get it. We specialize in food products.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other closing comments?
Closing comments, I'll just reiterate what Commissioner Washington said, that these have been some really difficult issues to deal with, and it's a matter of weighing the pros and the cons on both sides, and thinking about what's in the best interest of our county. Like you, I haven't made any decisions yet on any of these, but I will be looking things over in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you to everyone who came out tonight, and thank you particularly to all of those who stayed with us through these proceedings and this hearing this evening. As stated in the beginning of this evening, no decision is made tonight. The decision will be made on the 14th of March. That's Tuesday at 10 a.m. It is a public meeting, so you are welcome to join us at that time. Is there any other business we need to take up this evening?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Ladies and gentlemen, have a safe Thursday evening. This meeting is adjourned.
Hobble on over to